Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just back again with T-Mog's usual live stream. Just kind of had a quiet day today. Just went through the book of Romans twice. Very good book. Excellent book. Amazing. I think there's just so much in there. Every time I read the Bible, I always kind of pick up something new, even though in my mind I sometimes convince myself that there's nothing new I can learn, which I would say for people, don't take that attitude, even though I just admitted to it. Book of Romans is incredible. I don't know if it's just stuff that's going on in the world or just things that I feel are going to happen very, very soon. I read it in a very, very different way. I'm going to read Romans 10. I read it and then I actually listened to it audio, which was kind of cool in a different translation, for people who absorb information, in different ways. I realized that that's a good thing that I'm going to start doing is reading it in King James and then listening to it. And so that was really cool. But so, I'll read Romans 10 because it's very, very relevant on the day to day and then also incredibly tied to the end times. And so, for the little bit that I'm going to be teaching, I'm going to keep trying to do that. Is give stuff that will help us, and be relevant to our day-to-day life, hopefully encouraging, comforting in these difficult times. But also, I've realized more and more, every book really points to the end times. It's just sometimes it's coded, and Romans 10, it's not coded, really at all. And so it's incredibly valuable chapter, Romans 10 in particular, and 9 actually. I'll read a little bit of that. And so that's the plan. We got Colin. What's up, Colin, Meese, and Good Servant, man. Good to see you guys. Always good to see you guys, man. Hope everyone's doing well. So I usually make like a list of things, kind of like, sort of random topics, I guess, but as a preamble, and then, I'll read Romans 10. And then, if anybody wants to chat, the people that I know that can just join without me even, needing to know who they are. But if people come by later and that kind of thing, and if I don't know you, just because there's like an absurd amount of trolls, like it's just crazy. Like it's becoming more and more clear that this whole thing is very, very organized with resistance. And they haven't been that bad really on my videos. So I'm kind of thankful for that because I just find it annoying having to delete them. And so I'm thankful that pretty much the majority of the comments I get now are pretty, just people that I know. And then I delete a couple, but, really even my flat earth videos, which are the ones that usually get hounded the most, have been, not bombarded with like spam and all that kind of stuff. So that's good. Maybe the people at YouTube are focusing on other things, because I'm assuming they work for YouTube or Google or something like that. That type of thing. So Mason B, what's up, man? Show it me, man. Hashtag show me the curve. Where is this curve that they keep telling us? We're apparently living on a ball surfing, and the sunset apparently happens because we're moving on a ball earth, which is incredible. If anybody would just visualize that, that's insane to think that we are seeing a sunset because we're actually moving on an escalator, which would be Earth. That's absolute nonsense. And so credit to all the people out there. I don't even know who to name. Definitely Life is Short, but who've done work on the optics and all of that. And I would just say for the people out there, and this really means nothing coming from me, but for those people out there, the truthers, this is a great time, as scary as it is. And I never want to sell people some fantasy, some gas that's not true, but I genuinely feel this. And I want other people, if they don't already, to know this. This is a good time. This is the quote payoff for people like really everybody that comes across here, this small corner of YouTube. This is a good time, for us, because it's either going to get really, really worse and no God is going to intervene and quote help us, or it's going to get worse and we're going to see God intervene. So, either way, we're going to know whether God exists. And so scary, really, actually, both scenarios have their element of being scary, but this is the quote payoff, for, and I'm not saying me, but just like collectively, truth, which I believe is winning on the individual level. And so take comfort in that, because a lot of people have put in a lot of time in this. It's kind of a shame people like Pete Shea don't really direct all of their time and energy towards something that I believe will bear fruit. But, again, I'm not in control of what happens to people, but it's kind of a shame that there are truthers out there that I feel if they did put their energy towards the God of the Bible, it would bear a tremendous amount of fruit, certainly more than what's there. But, just take comfort in that, like that's the cool thing about the times that we live in. It's not more than 10 years or anything like that. Again, I do not know the day. I believe I know the year, but again, I could be wrong. I definitely know the decade. I'll promise people that it is not greater than 10 years that the God of the Bible will reveal himself in some tangible way at all. And so, we just have to kind of hang on. I'm giving it this year. I would say a more prudent person, a more patient person should wait maybe 2 years, the end of next year. But after that, I don't think really anybody will care about the Bible. I just think it'll be Mandela'd away, or, just we won't even have access to it. They'll tell us to keep 6 feet away from the Bible. Who knows what kind of rules the system will come. This is kind of funny, but you never know. That's literally the world that we live in. They may have like a Bible 6 foot distance rule. Like you can't read the Bible unless you're like 6 feet away, and somebody else is there to like read it to you, like Rumpus or somebody. So you never know. Like it's just crazy the way the world is. And so I'm very, very confident that the God of the Bible is going to reveal himself to all of us in a collective way, and then hopefully in an individual way as we go through these uncertain times. And so, just take comfort in that. There's absolutely no way a person laboring in the truth at all for any amount will not receive a reward. The Bible promises that. There's an excellent parable where a person works at the beginning of the shift and at the end of the shift, and they get paid the same. And that's the same that we see with the criminal on the cross. So even people new to like flat earth or the Bible or anything like that, it's deep, but it's not that deep. Don't get intimidated by anything really in the world, for sure. But definitely not the Bible. It's very, very straightforward. And, whatever I can do to kind of make it clear, I will do that. And, it's not that complicated. And we'll go over the sequence again today. The sequence is literally everywhere. That's why I don't say I know to be arrogant, like I've got some, God's cell number or anything, like he's texting me. But the pattern is everywhere. It's here in Romans. It's there in Matthew. It's there in Zechariah. It's there, and it's everywhere. It's in Revelation. Obviously, it's in Ezra. So I say that confidently. The only thing I cannot tell people is when it's going to happen and who's involved. So I don't want to know that. That would, again, be incredibly overwhelming. But I'm very, very confident in the sequence and what a person would see, if they're, witnessing these things. And so, take comfort in that. Right the hand. Good to see you, man. I'll read the chat in a second. I just want to talk about, so these kind of general points. For me, again, I'm always, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to tell people false things. I don't want to get ahead of God. So the one thing I do think about is like, and I mentioned this, I believe last week, it's like, what about technology? It's like so cool, like all the stuff people have could develop. But the reason I believe that, again, we're strongly in the end times is because everything that I see on the news, this is mainstream news, like, robotic dogs tracking people, drones, checking social distancing, obviously the mark of the beast, and this Trace Act and all that, which has 666 in it. So technology appears to just only be able to be used for surveillance and, God's left-hand side. And so if I were to ever see that change, even on a small scale, I would be open to this not being the end. But it looks like technology is being deployed only to, be a surveillance mechanism, and so to enslave people, even simple things like email and that kind of thing. And so it's not good, and even our energy, obviously God is giving people this information, but, we're extracting it from the earth. So we're literally like poking holes in the earth, all over the place. And so we don't know how much of that God wants. And so the Bible says that God, when he returns, he's going to destroy those who destroy the earth. And so that wasn't our decision, and so don't feel bad if people are involved in those industries. But we don't know how much of that God wants, and would actually want people to like poke a hole in his, earth that he made and all that kind of stuff. So really, I would say technology in almost all of its forms is being used for evil, even if it's sort of subtle. And so that gives me more and more comfort that it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And it doesn't look like they're ever going to let us use it to understand our surroundings and that kind of thing, because they're using it and they're giving us like CGI images of a spinning earth, which is absolute nonsense. So it's one thing if they actually told us about our reality and we're kind of open to, telling us exactly where we live and being able to use it, because we're paying for all this like military stuff through taxes. But that doesn't look like it's going to ever happen. So, it's, again, to me, it's just another kind of feather in the cap for the end times. So one thing I want to talk about with the book of Romans, and for people who read the Bible and understand that the Israelites are a focus for the Bible, in the Bible from the beginning to end, the book of Romans in particular opens it up to anybody, and so that's an incredible aspect of the book that I've known, but I didn't realize it in this level of kind of clarity, that the God of the Bible is not like this beast system. This beast system is looking for people to like, co-sign other people. Yeah, this person doesn't have COVID or whatever. And then like, they have the mark of the beast. And so, they're part of us and all that kind of stuff. So that's what this system's all about. It's finding somebody to co-sign you to like, that person's normal. And then, okay, they're accepted, by this system. The God of the Bible is not like that. His metrics that he states explicitly through Christ is that he's looking for people to worship him in spirit and in truth. And so he mentions that obviously because it's true, but Christ also knows that in the last days that's all we can do. We can't go and like change stuff, like undo the system. We can obviously be generous, but he also knows that there's going to be rich and poor. So a lot of us will not have very much money or resources. So that's why Christ says that. It's obviously relevant throughout all of human history. I'm not taking away from that, but it's very important for us in these days because that's what God knows that's what we can do. That's all we can do. And I'm saying that's a lot to do that. So definitely do it in whatever way God is kind of leading you. But that's what God is looking for, for people to worship him, in spirit and in truth. And so just know that people who come by and say like, God is only like for us, and it's only like our group and all that kind of stuff. We know that their spirit's off because that is not at all the way the God of the Bible would operate, because his people would always know that the God that they're bringing people to, is kind, and is generous. And so even if they weren't Israelites, they would always, know that this person, if they, follow their customs and, are a righteous person and honest and all that kind of stuff, they would be able to bring that person to their God, and the God of the Bible would accept that person, and so that's the part where we know that whenever somebody uses the Bible and says, oh no, it's only for us, like the Jehovah Witnesses, it's only for Mormons, it's only for the Hebrews, it's only for these type of people, just know that goes against just common logic. It's like, it's just, even if we imagine in our own life, like if we have a friend, like I'm Indian, but let's say I made a friend of like another race or another background, and I knew that my parents were like good people, like open-minded people, I wouldn't be worried about bringing that person to like, my home for dinner or something and introducing them to my family. And so that's, the Bible says that if our earthly parents can do that, God is infinitely more like inclined to that kind of hospitality. And so that's what I took away from Romans when I read it, earlier today, that should be obvious, and I want people to know that God is absolutely inviting any person who will accept him for who he is, which is very, very important, onto into the kingdom of heaven, and so there are certain requirements, and we'll kind of go into that a little bit, but, we have to know the individual that we're calling on. But just know that, like anybody who's saying it's only for us and, it's only this kind of rigid group of people and all that, they're essentially projecting their insecurities onto us, and there's something else going on. A normal person would gather around, people that they admire, feel like they're good, trustworthy people, and then, present that person before God. And then what is actually happening for people who can accept this is that when we do that, God always is using this for us. Like this channel, for example, is for me, and it's not for, I'm not doing this for a person or a group of people or anything like that. It's me to get my ideas out there. And so I realized this, over the last couple of years. And so when somebody brings somebody who's like, quote, outside of the fold to the God of the Bible is going to say, not congratulations for bringing that person to me. He's going to say that was for that person to understand that God's love is broad and deep. And so I want people to know that it's not like all this like save your soul, soul winning and all that stuff that we hear from Pastor Anderson, who's absolute Satanist. Very, very obvious, him mocking the flat stationary earth. Just know that, we don't have to, all I'm saying is the God of the Bible is not stupid. Like our human interactions have to reflect God in some way. It's not like we deal with people around us and the God's going to be some totally different way. Like, oh no, God's like some a-hole God who's like not anywhere, nothing like our parents, nothing like, our friends or anything like that. That's insane to believe that, that's absolutely insane. So I just want people to be comforted by that. I don't think I'm a quote Israelite or anything. I don't have that mindset. I've never been given anything like that. And if I were to quote bet on it, I don't think I am, and I wouldn't take any comfort in that anyway. And so that's what really the entire book of Romans is about, is that Paul's telling us don't take comfort in that. It's that, there's nothing that the law or different practices within the law guarantee anybody. It's actually being faithful, and like I said earlier, what Christ says, when he's interacting with a woman is to like worship a God in spirit and in truth. And he says the Father is actively looking for people to do that. And so that's the element of free will, is that we do have that amount of free will to decide, like Mason B's asking me if I practice Hinduism. I would say I had the element of free will to decide to continue to be a Hindu or do this, and it took obviously years to kind of get out of that stuff, but we do have that choice. I would say for anybody who's landed on the Bible or at least even interested in it, it's a good place to be, for sure. I'm very, very thankful because it's really educating me on our reality every day, very, very precisely. And so, I put that out there. This is a call for people of all nations. Another thing I want to talk about is, okay, so this is something that I've wondered, and I'm assuming a lot of people can already sense, is that, when you're around people and you mention certain truths, they just like run away, like they just get angry, they get irritated. We see this in the Ball Earth debate as well. And so to me, just from a physics perspective, it's almost like there's like they're not attracted to like what we're saying. So there's like, they just know to like, literally go away. And so I think about that, like how do they know that? It's like even if we were to like almost like model that to be a little bit nerdy, it's like, how does God do that? And so I found an answer. I'm sure there's other places in the Bible that support this, but those people know the truth actually. God's quote left-hand side, especially those people on the high ups, they obviously know that the earth is flat and like there's an end times and all that. But even your everyday average Christian who doesn't want to talk about flat earth, they know the truth. It's in them in a spiritual sense, even if they're not like wrestling with it mentally. And Romans 2:18-19 supports that. And it reads, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness." So they must have the truth. And then verse 19, "Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them." So they have the quote truth. It's just a reciprocal. I like to say it's multiplied by -1. However a person thinks about it, their vibration is tuned to the opposite of the God of the Bible. And so they know that when we bring out things like the mark of the beast and all that, I kind of tongue in cheek asked Dell in his chat earlier, can you talk about the mark of the beast? He just said no. Like he read the message and he said, no, I don't want to comment. And so how did he know? Like, why did he read that message out loud and not like even acknowledge it and be like, hey, because I was like, can you make a comment on the Bill Gates patent, for the mark of the beast? He's like, no. And he just like went on reading other stuff. And so again, I have no idea what his future is or mine, but I just want people to know that we have a lot of biblical support to know that God's left and right hand side know a lot of things. But the people who are drawn to the Bible for what it is, that we did not program that. That's the part that we're just the lucky ones. I don't know how else to describe it. We were not chosen because God, makes people. And so I have a verse for that, actually. I may need to find it, but it talks about the God being a potter, making things that are for honor and for dishonor. And so that's God's right and left hand side. And so it doesn't mean guarantee that we're on his right hand side, but it's a good sign, if we're drawn to these words and we don't really know why. And there's another group of people that are not drawn to these words. And so, I call them limited scripters. I call them anything but the Bible flat earthers. And so shout out to Mies Kang. He came up with non-conference earthers. So that's his. But, feel free to use these terms. I won't charge anybody for it. But I would say these people are limited scripters and anything but the Bible flat earthers. And I would not want to be any in those groups. That's insane. Even if the Bible is not true, why would we not want to talk about it? It's like, what's the big deal? Why do people get offended? Why does the plain truth say that the Bible is not a flat earth book? What does that? Why would he say something like that? What difference does it make if it supports a flat earth or not? Why would he go, like explicitly all the time when that's brought up? Why does he keep mentioning that, in the chat? Their job is to be what I call anything but the Bible flat earthers. And I would just say, what a horrible job to have. Just a terrible job to have at all. The Bible is absolutely flaunting its truth everywhere, and so we're the lucky ones. That's just what it is. One thing I also want to mention, I have a very small channel, but I do pay attention to my videos and how many views it gets because I'm curious which ones get kind of more penetration and stuff. And so roughly speaking, the ones on the economy don't get very many. And I almost know exactly who's watching them. Not by name, but I can pretty much tell who's interested in those. And then my lessons get kind of in the middle, and then Flat Earth kind of gets the most because I feel like there are a lot of trolls and stuff. And so I want people to know that that has to be the way it is, because then that means the economy cannot turn around. Because let's say the economy was like the biggest topic, all the truthers jumped on that, and then all that kind of stuff. We could fix this. We could potentially turn this around, make things more fair, redistribute the wealth and all that. But so this is the kind of the same point as my technology one earlier. Everything's pointing towards this system just completely snowballing for the worse. And so for those people who are not limited scripters, and I pretty much know who they are, people that come by here, we're the lucky ones. We're not afraid to learn about the economy or fractional reserve banking. That doesn't scare us, or it's not too deep of a conspiracy or whatever. We know that all these things are related, and a majority of them are evil. And so we don't have certain things that we can and can't talk about. And just know that that's a gift, because that means that God has opened our mind. And so that's good. It also got me to think about this verse in Isaiah, these verses in Isaiah 39-13, that this is a rebellious people, lying children that will not hear the law of the Lord, which say to the seer, see not, and to the prophet, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits. Get you out of the way, turn aside out of the path, cause the Holy One of Israel to cease from before us. There, God is speaking through Isaiah that there's going to be people that don't even want people to tell them anything about God. Don't bring God into the equation. Anything but God. Like I said earlier, there's people that are anything but Bible people. And we're told this in Isaiah. Verse 12, wherefore thus saith the Holy One of Israel, because ye despise this word and trust in oppression and perverseness and stay thereon. God does not want us to trust in this system. As much as this system tells us that's all the only options we have, a lot of us know that that's not our only option, and that's an absurd option, even if God didn't exist. And obviously, if he does, we're definitely getting out of that stuff. Verse 13, therefore this iniquity shall be to you as a breach ready to fall, swelling out in a high wall, whose breaking cometh suddenly at an instant. And so that's the end times. That's also referring to the end times where Christ says that he's going to come as a thief in the night. And so the people who've trusted in oppression and perverseness, that's not us. That's stupid, to do that. That's insane. And so don't do that. And so that's also something to think about, with these limited scripters. All they want to hear is this system continuing, that kind of thing. So I want to also help people understand that, and it's not to be arrogant. This is just more for people to know that I'm confident in the God that I present, and so I feel like this is I'm welcoming people into this room because the God that I present is very specific, and I have certain things that I hold very, very dearly. This God is someone who loves the poor and is for the people, not interested in leveraging other people. And so, I just want people to know that is a safe place, for me. And I would highly recommend people consider it if they're not already, deep into the Bible. There's a lot of gods out there, and all I can do is lobby and advertise for mine. But I would just say, consider it, consider it carefully, because there's less and less places that are safe on earth, physically, and then even like spiritually, because I have a feeling as much as more and more truth is going to come out that the Bible's true, there's equal amount of propaganda and lies and violence, that's going to start happening. And so find a safe place. We don't have to speak about this publicly. If you ever want to kind of talk to me, offline about different things that I believe and all that. So, I would just say, consider this very, very carefully, that the God that I present is a dark-skinned Jesus who is enamored with the poor and, died a grisly death on the cross for those that will not be ashamed of him, and so but the Bible says that don't be offended by God, and so I don't want people to be offended, and so he made a flat stationary earth. He is planning to return, and all these kind of things. And he hates sin, but even deeper than that, he hates arrogant people. And so we can't be like that. We can't make up our own God, and I would just say, if the God of the Bible is true, the one that I present, I believe, is the most sober interpretation. And I would say, the one that is the one who made us, and architected this entire narrative. So consider it if you haven't already. I think that it makes sense now more than ever that the God of the Bible is focused on the poor. And so that's why, another main reason why I know that we're in the end times, because it's not an issue of like how many years can the elite survive, or the upper class survive, or the middle class survive, or the poor survive. The Bible says, and if I linked the video below for salvation, because we'll talk about that today. God's eye is fixated on the blind and the lame, according to Jeremiah 31. So how much time do they have here? That's what I want people to know. It's not how long can Jaron keep his charade going, Oakley, or all these other people. God's using those people to distribute information down to us. And so the metric that he uses, and it's from the beginning to the end, is the poor. And so that's who God cares about, even though we see that no one cares about them. And so that doesn't mean that God doesn't. That's why I'm very, very confident that this whole, wealth inequality, the government only giving money to the top corporations, it's not even coming down to the middle class or the poor and all that. They're just flicking us crumbs. He's making it extreme, this one last push. And so just be very, very aware of that, even though it's hard to think that if you were to imagine all these rooms, like Bible Literalist has a room, Pastor Anderson, Ken Hovind, the Hebrew Israelites, everybody has their room and they're sitting with their God. The God that I'm presenting would be sitting there with people who are like crippled. They don't look like anything. They may have sores on their face, just not good skin. They may be missing an ear. They may be missing an eye. They may not have an arm, and all that kind of stuff. It's very difficult, even for very spiritual people, with the way that we've been brainwashed throughout our life, to think that that room is a valid room for a person to go into and worship the God of the Bible. But I'll tell you very, very confidently, that is the room. That is the room. It's not Bob Nodell sitting there with a stupid gyroscope or all these other people talking about other nonsense. There's a Hebrew Israelite room where it's only the Hebrews or whatever in their quote sackcloth and all that. I want people to understand, because it's also important for the end times, because the two witnesses are going to look poor. And so if you don't know that God's heart is with the poor, you'll just drive right past them. You will not know that those two prophets will be dark skinned, dressed in sackcloth, and they will look like nothing special, and so don't make that mistake, because I as well I've gone through that system. Literally it is a system of Christianity, and been brainwashed to think that God only cares about people with wealth, a network, articulate speech, and all that kind of stuff. That is not relevant to God. Just remember that. If you remember anything in this, Moses was not the best speaker. That's not what he was about. There's interactions where he feels self-conscious about his ability to communicate, and God gives him a helper, and so Aaron. And so he's not into all that stuff, how you get on these hangouts and all these actors get together and, if you sound like articulate, they get a little, head nod and approval and all that. That's foolishness to God. God doesn't care about that, those hangouts. We see that with all this like super chat, Sam Hine nonsense. God's letting us know that that's just a distraction, and so that's just literally to kill time. And so don't think like that, because God hides himself in the poor. And so with this event that I believe is going to happen very, very soon, and you see poor people, don't think that that's from the government. I don't know how to say that. That's not a government. That's not a NASA troll scenario. That is the rapture. That is God taking away his most prized possessions. It's not going to be Jaron. I guarantee you it's not going to be Jaron or the Bible literalist or Pastor Anderson, who thinks he's one of the 24 elders. He thinks he's up there literally at the cream of the crop when he's calling flat earthers idiots, when God made a flat stationary earth. This is how stupid the world is. And he has like thousands of people that follow him. So anybody that has common sense, don't make those mistakes. And so for anybody who has common sense, align yourself with the God of the Bible. God does not care about how many followers you have, how many resources you have, how many people laugh at your stupid jokes and all that kind of stuff. We're not living in those days. This is not, this is very, very serious. That's going to start happening to all of us, really, no matter what, whether the God of the Bible exists or not. It's getting serious, in the next while. It already is. People are getting beat up just for standing 5 feet apart from somebody. I mean, how much dumber can the world get? So just know that. And it's important to discern the works of God, for sure. And so that's important. Also, the last point is also just remember that the end times are not evil, like pure evil, hardcore. They're not meant to be unlivable. They're going to be livable for people who the Bible says worship the beast. So as long as you worship technology, you have access to some income, through the beast system and the corporations, you'll be okay. So it's not like fireballs coming down. You got to dodge fireballs every day and all that for people on earth. And there's going to be famines, but it's going to be like gradual, and all that kind of stuff. It's not that kind of thing where abruptly the entire food shortage will just stop, for all of America in a day. It might just be, it's going to be through inflation. Like slowly the prices will creep up, and then it's going to be that kind of a scenario. And so only the people who have resources will be able to get it, or people who submit to whatever the government requests will have access to it, like universal basic income, a microchip, and all that kind of stuff. So a person will have to worship the beast at some point, to stay alive. And so that's the way it's going to be. I don't want people to wait for a time. Again, I don't know the day or hour, but I know the rough time period. It's definitely this year or next year. Like I can say that confidently, or else the God of the Bible doesn't exist, in my opinion. So you don't have to be as impatient as me for this year, but it's not like way down the road, for sure. And so ultimately it's going to feel sort of normal, and so even at the end of the Great Tribulation period, people are still sending things to one another, and all that kind of stuff. And they feel relieved when these two witnesses are killed, because they think things are going to go back to normal. But what they don't understand is that is now God's cue to destroy America. And so that's the vibe, that's the way it's going to be from the beginning of the Great Tribulation period right to the end. And so it can't be unlivable for even like a few days, or else none of us would survive, because we're all hanging by a thread right now. And we're not even in, the water turned to blood and all that other stuff that's prophesied in 16. That's going to be tough. And so I want people to know it's going to be gradual. Some of it may be actually physical. Some of it may be just, propaganda on the news. We don't know, how God's going to do it exactly. But I just want people to understand, don't wait for a time that's so evil to think that God's going to, quote, pull the trigger. God's looking, and I know it's hard for people to believe, even myself sometimes, and I teach it. If God looks at the world of what's going on, he's not listening into like Globebusters or any of those stupid hangouts. What's Oakley talking about today? He knows what Oakley's talking about because he talks about the same thing every day. Or me. He's looking at the poor. That's in Jeremiah 31. Watch that video down below that I posted about salvation, and you'll see that, that a good chunk of God's elect, not all of them, are poor, and have deformities. They might be missing an arm. They might not have an eyeball. They might not have a leg, and all that kind of stuff. They're going to be blind and lame. And so people would there's no way that God cares about, those people. There's no way, but I want people to know God is doing everything to educate all of us, on what he actually cares about. God's spirit can only sit in those people because they don't have a conflict of interest. They're desperate. And so just know that, that's just the way it is. And the main trigger for the end times is actually not so much pure evil. It's actually deception. And so the Bible says that God's children are going to be deceived, but a group will not be, and I believe that group has to be flat earthers, people like us, because we're not deceived by the ball earth. We've done the due diligence, gone in those hangouts and uncovered this beautiful truth, and then lots of other things. And so that's the trigger, is that the deception period will be over, and they call that tribulation in the Bible, but the next phase is great tribulation. And so just know that, that we live in a time right now, primarily of deception, and I even heard Dell say that, I could copy the clip, but it's not that important. Don't need Dell to co-sign this, but it's what the only reason I use people like that is if it gets a Dell, then it's pretty much everywhere, because I just view him as kind of a flat earth atheist. But everybody knows that the deceptions are out there, and they're actually kind of stupid, especially for us as flat earthers, because we question everything now. Literally, we question people in our own family, we question our own life, and the purpose of it. Really, I do. And so just keep that in mind, that's the quote trigger point for the end times, is that the God's elect, whoever they are no longer being deceived, and they no longer want to be a part of the system. That's what it is fundamentally. Also consider the brutal enslavement of the so-called Negroes has to be in the Bible. And so I was supposed to talk to Sean G. I don't know if he's listening, but if he wants to join the panel after, I was curious to kind of pick his brain about different things. But just know that, that narrative that brought that group of people here to America was not just a quinky dink, not at all. That's in the Bible. And that's not the whole of God's people, but that's a group of them. America will be the center, the focal point of the beginning of the end times, because that initiative was God's judgment. And so that's what it is. Sean G's not white. I can't comment on the other thing, but so also something to think about, which I hope people have looked into, America being Mystery Babylon. What can we infer from that? I just want people to consider it. Again, don't take my word for it, but read Revelation 17 and 18. If a person is not convinced that at least America has a chance of being Mystery Babylon, I don't know what to say. To me, that's absolutely crystal clear. I would bet America being Mystery Babylon before the flat earth. And I know that the earth is flat and stationary. So that's how confident I am that is the case. And so just, do the backwards calculations with that. If that is the case, and I would say I pretty much know that it is, things are going to get real crazy if they're not already crazy. So that's that. That's my little preamble. I'm just going to read the Lord's Prayer and then go through Romans 10. I'll go through the chat real quick. I don't think I saw anybody new. SE Montreal, good to see you, man. We got Canada in the building. Brandon Toy, I'm not sure if I said hi, man. Good to see you. I'm not sure why the wrenches kind of come and go, man. That's kind of strange. I find this new YouTube setup, because I can't use the old one anymore. Like, it's terrible. Like, it's like incredibly awful. Everything's harder. So I don't know what they're doing back there. Everything about the new creator studio or whatever, to me, I just hate it. And so sorry about that. Oh, Mies, I wouldn't have had a problem if you took credit for the Conference Earthers thing, man. you can take from IPS, man. That's fine. That's dope, though. I like that term. My channel might be better termed non-conference earther. That might be a term that people would start using. I know stationary SE is stationary Earth. I wouldn't mind being a non-conference earther in the days that we live in. Why did Bible literalists block me? Dude, I don't know, man. She blocked me too, just because I mentioned reincarnation. I guess reincarnation is like a swear word to the Bible non-literalists, which is what she actually is. And so the problem is, and I'm not saying I'm running all this, but people that come by here, it's a mark on you because of the Mystery Babylon thing, is what I've realized. That's what it boils down to. And so people will actually be okay with the mark of the beast now because it's obvious, but really the Mystery Babylon thing runs completely contrary to all the Bible people out there teaching, QE, Ken Hovind, Bible literalist and all that. So, just, I'm sure she has other reasons besides that, but she blocked me too, if that makes you feel better. Bob Nodell is a flat earth hero. Yeah, he does. He spends so much money to prove the ball earth. Good for him. You think the rapture will come this year? Yeah, I do. For a lot of different reasons, but the main one I would say is the poor. And then also you're required to sin here. And so the Bible says that the end times will be cut short for the elect's sake. They're not deceitful. And the Bible says they may be virgins, literal virgins. And so, and like I said, poor, like lame, like they're not going to rely on this system, and stuff, this medical system, which is deeply evil. And so I would say those are my strongest 2 points. There's a lot of others, obviously, for a lot of different reasons as well. But that to me is why the God of the Bible is being put in a corner. And so he pretty much, and I say this respectfully, he has to move soon. Yeah, we don't know what will be a precursor. Colin, that's a good question. I still feel like the UFOs are going to create a fake rapture. We look at exactly who's taken away. That's why I really focus on letting people know who the individuals are. It's like if Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner are taken away on a chariot, we can probably confirm that that's some fake nonsense. But if it's people who are poor, and lame and all that, and government makes some story like a bunch of poor people are taken away, that's the rapture, and we should rejoice that is the way God is, because whoever gets, quote, taken away, it's the people that are taken away that reflect that individual's character. And so if Donald Trump and all these, Putin get taken away, then it's their God. But then if it's another group, then that's their God and that kind of thing. So look at the quality of the people that have, quote, disappeared and all that kind of stuff. And so we'll know, this is not a mystery. The UFOs, people who have encountered them, and it's kind of cool hearing Ranty say that he has as well. People who have encountered them, you feel it. It's not like just a visual thing. And so that's why the blue beam can't recreate that. They can make something interesting in the sky, like, wow, there's some lights in the sky. That's kind of cool. But these UFOs, you'll feel it. I mean, think about it. This would be our creator who's coming back through Christ. We'll know, here inside what's going on. So trust that. Ultimately, trying to say they found God on earth yet. When is shall not imposter? We'll know. I don't think there won't be any doubt. Like, it's just Christ says it's going to be visual. It's going to be up in the sky. Everybody will see him. It's I can't describe what those vehicles will look like, but it'll be obvious and it'll impact our physiology. And so that's another very, very important point as well, because after the rapture is a period of time where the gospel is preached around the world. And so that's not going to be two people on a bullhorn, yelling, reading from the Bible in America. They have to have other vehicles in the sky to do that. And those are God's angels. And so, and when they quote move around, people will feel it, and then it's God's right-hand side that will quote feel it. And so there will not be any ambiguity about that event for sure. NASA cannot fake that aspect of it. Oakley is doing a job. That's why he does the same. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Same with Dell. Dell is literally not allowed to talk to the mark of the beast. And so how he knows that has to be spiritual. He didn't consult, his boss when I asked that question earlier today. He knew that he was not allowed to talk about that. And so that's just what it is. What was the last thing you said, Mason B, to her to get blocked? I'm curious if you remember, to Bible literalists. Not that it really matters, but I wonder. What's a good video on America's Mystery Babylon? If you literally search Mystery Babylon in my search box, you'll find me going through them. I've done a live stream recently, a couple weeks ago, where I read through it. And so, check it out. If you have questions, just email me or whatever. We can go through it, offline. But I think you'll see pretty clearly that that's the case. She is an agent too. Yeah, if Right the Hand's referring to Bible literalists, I mean, that's obvious. Reincarnation shouldn't be such a controversial topic. I don't want people to get offended by that. It's just God tells us certain things, and it's obvious to us, and it shouldn't be offensive. It's just like the flat earth. Why does flat earth offend so many Christians? It doesn't make sense. It's like, what's the big deal? Even if we're wrong, why don't you talk about it? Why do people just run away and all that kind of stuff? It doesn't make sense. I did Paige, I don't know if Paige is listening, but she sent me a link to a video of a person who is predicting, the date of the end times and all that. I watched the video. It was interesting. This girl felt like she had some revelation about, the dates in June. I'm not into that. I don't know. Definitely don't know the day. I would say whenever somebody knows the day, literally, let's say we got 750 people and everybody was just assigned one day for the next couple of years. One of those people would be right. I would say for sure if it's the next couple of years. So somebody knows the day, but no one knows it for sure. That's really what the point is. And so we're not necessarily even supposed to speculate, but we're supposed to know the time period, and so all these people who just don't have an opinion on it, to me, that's not right. That's not the way the God of the Bible operates. Again, I don't know if this is true. This is what I've reasoned in my own mind, that that event needs to occur this year for many, many different reasons. But like I said, most importantly, it's the poor and the requirement to sin to stay alive here. T-Mog and I can disagree on some things, yet not hated on here. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I know that these things are, you don't digest them in a day. The first time I heard that Christ was black, I didn't, throw a party for myself. I mean, I had to digest that. Flat Earth took years. Reincarnation, I feel like I already knew before. I'm not saying that to brag, but I already knew that, because when I used to read that John the Baptist was Elijah, I took that literally. No one told me to not, and that's the way I read the Bible. So some things take time, and obviously you don't have to agree. And so Mies Kang's like, T-Mog's very honest. I would say I'm honest if these things happen. If these things don't happen, I don't really know how to classify myself. I didn't do it for the money, so I don't feel comfortable with myself sleeping at night about that. But I would say I'm very transparent. I'm not, whatever, ashamed of the situation that I'm in life, because I realize a lot of people are in a similar one and that kind of thing. And so, I think that's the strength of the community that comes by here, is that, again, we're not scripters. We don't read from a script, because the scripts that are being provided to us are stupid. Quite frankly, that's really what the issue is for me, is that if a script were to be provided that were actually intelligent, that you could learn something from, that would be different. But The scripts that people are reading from are just flat out stupid. The one that is not, is this one, and so, but we don't have to wait forever because we can't, because our police are turning on us, trying to kill us, beat us up for standing 3 feet away from people and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm certain, God has created a situation where people are going to start complaining that they can't live here. Lots of people. Again, I don't want people, it's not like me and like 5 people complaining. There's billions of people on earth right now that have no idea about the future. That's a lot of people, even if you don't believe that there's 6 or 7 billion people, which maybe they're not, a good percentage, 20% at least of the world has no certainty about the future. And so, and I'm sure the number is a lot higher than that. And so that's at least 20%. And so that's a lot. And then what's happening with the poor, and again, I'm not saying this to sound cool, but that's genuinely who God cares about. There are people literally sleeping on the streets, and all of us drive past and walk past because we have our own problems. And so they're getting nothing, and then once the money goes away with this Corona thing, how are we even going to help them? Like, how are we going to transfer wealth or value to them and all that kind of stuff? They're in a desperate situation. And so that's why everybody thinks that, just because the celebrities are okay, they're saying everything's fine, go to the gym, work out and all that, just stay at home, #stay at home and all that kind of stuff. Those people are actors. God doesn't care about them. They don't value their own life and anybody else's life. And so we should not be like that. We have to be tuned to the God of the Bible and that kind of thing, and so even other people, religious people, will open up the Bible and not acknowledge that the end times, the salvation is an experience, is a moment, is an event, and it's centered around the poor. It's open to anybody. All these things are predetermined. I'm not saying don't go ask. I would say definitely ask. It doesn't make sense to not ask, but I want people to know the main thrust of the people that will be saved, God's elect, are in a condition that no one would imagine that God cares about them. Good servant can feel it in his bones, man. That's good. That's good to hear. I think more and more people that sense it, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but there's strength in numbers. I asked her about her thoughts on reincarnation. So I guess that's the trigger word. So for Jose, it's Donald Trump. You get booted immediately. And so shout out to Nose Gonzalez. He gave me an hour of airtime. And, every moment I was like on edge. I'm like, I'm about to get kicked kind of thing. And so, because I was laying into them at the beginning, like me and Rakia, who's very good at debating, we were leaning into them a little bit. They don't want to talk about the edge of their universe, but they want us to go and touch the dome kind of thing. This is how stupid they are. And so, it looks like Trump is the trigger word for no say, and then reincarnation is the trigger word for Bible literalists. I guess that offends them, the Patokli crew, when we know things. They're like, wait a minute, where'd you get that information? You actually know something? Like, I don't want you to know anything. I actually was like trying to help her because she genuinely was asking people in the chat because she didn't know. And I thought that was amazing. That's a great way to use the channel. Hey, let's brainstorm. What does Revelation 1:7 mean when it says, and I'll read this, Revelation 1:7 reads, and this is the exact verse that she was asking about, "Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him." Why will they wail if they just think it's a light show? They'll know that it's something against the spirit that's inside of their body. And so they know, that judgment is here. And so just know that that's one of the many, many evidences of proof of reincarnation in the Bible. People being arrested for manicures and cutting hair while real criminals. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's, if people don't see that, like what Colin just said, come on, like the kind of people that are up at the top doing things that are not getting, no accountability, no snitching on other people at the top. Like we're being run by psychopaths, and all that. And so, come on, like that's insane. for us to not think that that's going to have some kind of end, where they're turning us normal people into like savages, tattletales, and all that. And so that's why, again, the end will be soon, because God's elect are not deceitful. And so there's people who don't even read the Bible, and they don't want to lie either. And I just read this on Reddit, people who hate that they have to lie in job interviews, make up stuff and all that. So, that's that God has made this system that way on purpose. I just want people to know that. And so he's made it to the point where certain people wake up at a certain threshold, and then it may take us a little bit more to cry out to God. But, we're in those times, where everybody really has no choice but to look to God, for an explanation of what's going on. Ether is QE's trigger. That's weird, dude. So everybody has something. I was typing COVID in No Say's chat today, and I got timed out. And I was like, okay, I won't write COVID. I'll write it backwards. And they're like, don't do that either. And I still got timed out. So I was in a kind of trolly mood this morning. But, that's, everybody has their words that you can't say or whatever. That's kind of strange. But I don't know. To me, that just proves that those things hold some kind of value. Even with Dell, he doesn't want to talk about it. If it's not going to happen, or he doesn't care about it, he'll just talk about it. Be like, hey, whatever, I don't think it's going to happen. But the fact that Dell doesn't want to talk about it means that it's going to happen then, because our flat earth high priests have lists of things they're not allowed to talk about. Rakia Life, a flat earther, I asked in a super chat, what do you think's the mark of the beast? He doesn't know, but he knows that the earth is flat, but he doesn't want to talk about the mark of the beast when it's like literally in the patent. Like, I don't know how much more God could telegraph the 666 mark of the beast with that patent by Microsoft and this like trace program. I mean, it's just going to get even more obvious too. This is how merciful God is. He's making it obvious. And so it's not a shot to Rakia Life, but it just shows that these people are in place to make sure that they happen. If we let's just say the entire flat earth community freely talked about fractional reserve banking. Let's say we all got on the bullhorn. Miskang will know what I'm talking about. Let's say we all got on the bullhorn, all of us. I don't know, maybe there's millions now, flat earthers. We could fix this system. We would turn it around. But we're not allowed to talk about it. And it's just the way it is. And so the only way that can be is that God wants those things to happen. And so this system's not going to turn around. And it's not going to turn around. The litmus tests that I use are the truthers. And so it's not even necessarily a shot to them. Everybody has to play their role. I would just say in the times that we live in now, it doesn't make sense to have a limited script, because the script is literally played out. Like, it's just happened right in front of all the money's been spent, distributed for the most part. They maybe have one more round of, payroll protection program or, universal basic income. For the most part, the money's been printed, and stuff. So we're not turning this thing around. We're not, the Rothschilds are not going to open up their bank account so we can come in and, eat from their fridge or whatever and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully we understand that that's not the case. God has designed them to be that way on purpose. He wants this system to collapse, but he wants us to give him credit for it, because he's done that in human history over and over again. Every nation that's been raised up, he specifically architected the demise. We see the summary of it in the Bible, but at the day-to-day, there were stories made up, just like there are stories being made up right now. And so we just hear the like high-level summary. But all the famines, all the Nebuchadnezzar, and all that stuff, there would be like, Masons, police officers and all that implementing the plan. And so the modern day plan is here in America, and this Corona thing is part of his plan, it appears. And then the next step is what the Bible says, death, mourning, and famine. And then she shall be utterly burned with fire. But before that happens, 2 witnesses need to be prophesying here to extract God's mixed multitude. God has a group that he loves in all nations. So whatever background we are, I'm East Indian, I grew up in Canada. The Bible says that there's a group that are from every nation on earth. They speak every language. And so the invitation's open. And that's an incredible invitation, even if it costs us our life. Good servant in capital letters is like, the truth should have no limits. I like that, man. If you would have put a few more exclamation marks, man, that would have been good too. But, that's, I agree with you. If it does have limits, what is it then? You asked me that question, and it was a good question. I knew what you wanted to hear, but I went a different way with it. But fundamentally, if the truth has limits and it stays that way, that person is against God, and I'm sure the good servant would agree with me. I would call them an actor, but you can really call them whatever you want. And the crazy thing is, even if we don't have limits, doesn't mean that God loves us. But we're in a good position. I want people to know that that's a good sign, because not many people have the freedom. Christ says the truth will set us free. What does that mean? Are we free to go and disobey the police and all that? No, no, that is not. I was listening to Earth is Seriously Flat earlier. He's like, yeah, if somebody comes and does that, I'm going to take their life and all that. I'm like, no, I wouldn't recommend doing that. That's not the spirit that's telling me to do that kind of stuff, get vigilante. Again, I don't know for sure. So if people are led a different way, just we can agree to disagree. But I don't believe that that's the freedom that Christ is talking about. We have the freedom in these days to worship God in spirit and in truth and to cry out to him, because he's the one that is behind the evil. God is behind the corona, the mark of the beast, the ball earth, and all that kind of stuff. So we don't have to go beg a police officer to give us breathing room. We have to go to God, but God will likely say to us that he just needs a little bit more time. And then he's going to intervene. Mies Kang's definitely not going to turn around. Agree 100%. Yeah. I feel like we kind of held out hope, maybe a couple of years ago. I was like, yeah, maybe, man, the flat earth thing's kind of cool. Maybe, if we get a unique solution and then, honest, good natured people, we could, talk to people around us if we needed to, and it's safe and comfortable, we can kind of spread the truth and kind of, I would say, infuse truth back into the church. If we have a few flat earthers in every church, that might potentially change things. But, now we see the kind of people we have in the flat earth. They're atheists. They're effectively atheists. And so that's not going to happen. And so that door was slammed for all of us, I'm sure, in our face over and over again. And so God's just letting us know that that's the case. Again, I'm not saying that they're going to hell or they're going to burn in hellfire or anything like that. I have no idea. I really don't even know sometimes what's going to happen tomorrow. But I do have a lot of confidence in the Bible narrative playing out, and playing out soon, for sure. I say that confidently, but I don't want to pretend to come across like I'm casting judgment on people, but it's very obvious the general vibe in flat earth is one of Mandela, AI, simulation. I call it, like I said earlier, anything but the Bible, anything but the literal Bible. Sorry. Fake doctors, respect science doctors, and who we place in charge. Yeah. I think it's probably obvious to people that come by here, but Christ is giving us an example of people that are completely opposite to the way he is. And so it puts us in a position to cry out to him, and he wants that. He is our quote hero, our savior, our redeemer. All those terms are fitting for him. And so, but in order for us to really cry out to him in a desperate way, he has to put us in this kind of system, for better or for worse. But, it's obviously obvious to people Colin and other flat earthers that, this system is completely backwards. These scientists and stuff don't sound intelligent. It's why don't they actually get good actors? It's why not get I don't know, Denzel Washington, Tom Cruise, or some of these people who actually can act and sound sort of smart if they needed to for a particular role. But Dr. Fauci and all these people, come on, the acting is awful. And so it's just absurd. The world that we live in, it's crazy. The poor will rise up soon. Yeah. The last will be the first. And so that's what Christ is saying. He's creating a backward system upside down, but his plan is to reverse it. And so the way we have a situation now is the poor can't last for very long. And so he's created, obviously, that system, that's upside down, where no one even talks about the poor. I'm talking about the very, very poor. And so now all he has to do is reverse it. And so I believe that event will happen soon. Even if I'm in prison, the prison is in my head. Yeah, that's true. I would say I no longer feel mentally enslaved. I feel like all this stuff was meant for us now to be awake. We're awake, for the people who are into the Bible. And if the Bible comes true, we're the real awake ones. We're not better than people morally or anything like that. There's lots of righteous people in a lot of different religions. All that kind of stuff. That's not the difference with us. Freedom doesn't necessarily mean that we're the best morally, but it does allow us to get close to God, and worship him and know about his plans and all that kind of stuff. And so that makes us unique, for sure. And so that's freedom from a mental prison. But, our surroundings being a prison, I mean, our apartment, we're paying, whatever amount a person pays for rent to be imprisoned in our own apartment. And so that's crazy. And I was reading somebody's post on Instagram, and like they were shocked that somebody was out in New York City without a face mask and no one stopped them. They were like, oh man, I saw some people with a face mask and police didn't say anything to them. And I'm like, what kind of world do we live in that somebody's shocked that they were allowed to just go get groceries without a face mask? So I'm assuming the sequence will be face mask, vaccine, and then the mark of the beast. Maybe it's all shoved together if this quote rapture happens this year, which I'm predicting. But, those things to me are speculation. But it looks like their desire to put things quote on us or in us is very, very obvious, that's the case, and so I honestly didn't believe that was this possible this fast. I didn't know that when I made that prediction that America will be destroyed by the end of 2023. I didn't realize that this system worldwide could come up with something that could have this much of an impact this fast. That's just wild. And then the sheep, just soak it all in. They love it. God's left-hand side, they love this kind of stuff. They're like, hey, I'm bored. Let me go and like download the app so I can go and track other people. It's like they were like waiting for this. They're like, damn, this is awesome. I have something to do now. I can go report and tattle on a bunch of people who aren't wearing a face mask and look like a retard. So, all the pieces are in place for God's plan. It looks like. So it's amazing. Yeah, sounds good, Mason B. Good to have you here, man. Show me that curve, man. # show it B. It's crazy, dude. All right, Romans 9. I'll read the last little bit. And and then I'm going to read chapter 10. It's not that long. And then, I'll just leave it open if people want to come by. This is kind of, again, similar stuff that I've been going over. I want people to be reminded, and I'm not saying this to brag in any way, but I've looked at this from a very analytical perspective. This sequence that I keep, hopefully it's not annoying, but that I keep sharing, it's literally everywhere. And so I would not be as excited. I don't share the excitement in these videos, but I'm not throwing myself a party or anything, but I get excited, when I see this, and then I have, if next week exists, I'll show it again, in another book as well, the same quote pattern in Isaiah. And so it's literally everywhere. I definitely want people to read it, and challenge me and all that, push back. I don't have some kind of pass for saying whatever I want, but that's not good for me. It's not good for anybody, but I want people to know this sequence is everywhere in the Bible. And so the only question the only thing we don't know, first of all, is the Bible true? But if the earth is flat and stationary, I'm certain the Bible is true. And then if America is Mystery Babylon, then what I present is absolutely going to happen. The way I present is that God's elect, we're in a time of deception right now, of tribulation. The day that it ends is when there's a quote rapture, this quote salvation of my people, men and women everywhere around the world, mysteriously taken away. Then there's a period of 1,260 days where two witnesses who are John the Baptist and Moses will be in America. And so another thing we have to think about is that God would not put them here when there's just like absolute chaos in the streets and like everybody's just shooting everybody and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be bad, but it's going to still be livable because God's two most precious people will be here. They have to be here and living, like going to sleep and all that kind of stuff. So it can't just be like the Wild Wild West kind of thing. It's not going to be good, especially if you read Ezra and also Revelation 18. It's not going to be hunky-dory. Everything's not going to be great, but it's going to be a very, what I call a controlled demolition, of America. And so two men will be standing on the streets of America looking poor and having the help of angelic beings sharing the gospel to the entire world. And so if anybody worries about, hey, what about those people in the Amazon and India and all these, parts of the world where no one even knows that they exist, God is going to reach everybody. He's not going to miss anybody. That the only way the gospel can be preached into the entire world is if God has help with the angels. And so it's not just going to be the two people on a bullhorn, blasting it through CNN and Fox News and all that kind of stuff. Because we all know that there are people that live in places that don't have, internet, the best internet or cell phones. Most do, but it's going to reach everybody. And so it's that 3.5 year period. And so the Bible even says that, God has given Satan very, very little time. And it even says that here that, let me see if I can get that exact verse. Verse 28, this is actually in chapter 9, but Romans 9:28 says, "For he will finish the work and cut it short in righteousness, because a short work will the Lord make upon the earth." So when God dips his toe into the earth, he doesn't have to belabor the point. The world knows that God exists. And again, I don't have any kind of dream. I'm not selling anything like that. I'm just reasoning with the scriptures and with what I see going on in the world and all that, and then that's really what I'm presenting. I would say a very logical, sober interpretation of the Bible. But whenever God does reveal himself, let's say hypothetically that he does, the world will not be, will know now, just all of us. It's like God is real. We've lived in this very atheist time. We've been absolutely bamboozled, hoodwinked with all forms of atheism, really, even in Christianity. And so God doesn't need to spend 20 years, arguing with people, bottom-up obstruction and all that kind of stuff. That was kind of fun for a little while, but God's glory will be made manifest. We'll know that entity made us. That's the most important thing. However, whatever we have to go through going forward, at some point we're going to be reintroduced to the entity that made us. And so I just want all of us to be recombined with him, knowing about him. If you guys don't know certain things about him, that all these things were very, very planned, and he has a purpose for his right-hand side and all that kind of stuff. So to not be to know things that we should know, that kind of thing. So that's the way the God of the Bible is. He's brilliant, and so he expects us to know certain things, not everything, but, we can dot the I's and stuff, cross the T's. But so that's the sequence. It's going to be this quote, rapture, this salvation. I linked the video below. I'd highly recommend people watch it on salvation. That's going to be the kickoff of the end times, the 1260 days, where Moses and John the Baptist will be here in America, really pleading with the world, to accept God and to repent, and pleading with all flesh. And so they'll have help. It'll be very obvious now that something very, very strange happened to a lot of people, not to us. And then after that, it's over. Everybody is, quote, tagged with the mark of the beast at some point throughout that 3.5 years. That's the objective at that point, is for the left-hand side to tag anybody who's dumb enough to take it. And everybody else will get sloughed off. And everybody that does get sloughed off is part of the mixed multitude, And so if that needs to be us, we accept that fate. And the mixed multitude is the group that's described in Revelation 7, verse 9. If people want to, let me read that actually, because it's kind of important, and then I'll get Romans, and then that'll be it. But this is the group that is open for all of us to be a part of. Revelation 7, verse 9, and after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number. So it was not the 144,000. It's just a massive millions, who knows how many people, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. And then he's asked who these people are. Verse 14, and I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. And so that's the mixed multitude, and so that's the group that God is sifting during the Great Tribulation period. There's a group that's exempt from that time. And, if we're not in that, then we have to give up our life. That's just what it is. But the things that are promised to the people that do in Revelation are just incredible. I don't even know we can't describe it, and so this system is absolutely failing. We know that it's absolutely failing. People have known that for a long time. And so don't worry about it. Walker, I'll give you welcome, man. I'll give you a moderator thing. I don't give moderators to people like you have to moderate anything. It's just so I can see you when you type something. So don't, there's no trolls here today, but welcome, man. Good to see you. But yeah, so that's the sequence. So the rapture, the quote rapture, and then the two witnesses, two literal men. It would be cool to know where they will be. You know, I would be very, very interested to obviously see them. And it will be Elijah and Moses. And they'll be prophesying for 1,260 days. And then God will be establishing his kingdom on earth. And so that kingdom will be one that will not decay. You know, he won't raise up a leader and then kill them, raise up a leader and kill them. He will create things, we don't know what, that will not just be destroyed. And so I have no idea what that would be. Imagine somebody brilliant looking at something that he wants to see all the time. That's the way I, quote, think of the kingdom. That's really the only mental thing that I can imagine is like, we look at things, you know, like if you have your favorite food or, you know, if you're married, you know, your significant other, you look at something that you're drawn to, or if you're into real estate or golf, for me, golf courses, God would have to look at something and want that to exist forever. And so what would that be? That's the part where we can't understand. You know, we literally have to go inside the mind of God and know the way that the kind of things that he likes. And so we can get a sense of the things that he dislikes here, but that's the way the kingdom will be. So we will be, hopefully, if we're a part of that, involved in building up something that will never be destroyed. And so that's an incredible thing. And then we'll be able to do it without any kind of pain. That's what the Bible says. We don't have hunger pains. The earth will be illuminated by God himself. So we don't have to argue about light rays, you know, and whether they curve over an earth or anything like that, because the earth will be illuminated by Jesus Christ. Okay, so Romans 9:33, I'll just read the last verse. As it is written, behold, I lay in Zion a stumbling stone and rock of offense, and whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed. I just want people, just don't be ashamed of the God of the Bible. There's a lot of things in the world that we should be ashamed of, but do not be ashamed of the God of the Bible. Even if the entire world is, don't do that. You know, even if we don't fully understand him, he doesn't require us to fully understand him anyway. We can't, but he's brilliant. Romans 10 reads, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. For they, being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God. So that is our call, you know, is just, even if we don't fully understand it, submit to this kind of righteousness. Everybody else is going to go tell us, go fight, go pillage that person, go argue with the cops and all that kind of stuff. If you feel like you're being led to do that by God, go and so be it. But I just want people to know that the Christ that is presented in this Bible did not fight. You know, he took the cup that was assigned to him and he took it to death, you know, and then he had even the incredible amount of love to forgive those who did that to him. How can we even understand that? That's an incredible thing. Verse 4, for Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth. Verse 5, for Moses describeth the righteousness which is of the law, that the man which doeth those things shall live by them. But the righteousness which is of faith speaketh on this wise, say not in thine heart, who shall ascend into heaven, that is to bring Christ down from above, or who shall descend into the deep, that is to bring up Christ again from the dead. But what saith it? The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thy heart. That is the word of faith which we preach. And so God is saying here that, you know, these things will be put in us. You know, we don't know even necessarily why we say some of the things that we do and why we go against the people around us. They may, you know, want to say certain things, but we don't kind of go along with it. We're being told here that these things are being planted in our mind, you know, in our mouth, in our heart. Verse 9, that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus Christ and shalt believe in thine heart that God raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. And so I want people to understand that that's a promise. You know, that's just what it says. And so we have no reason to not believe that that's true. And so if we're saved, we have to be saved from something, you know. And so Jesus says in Matthew 24, those who endure till the end will be saved. So that's the end times. So salvation is for the end times. And so God is creating this system, coronavirus, all these vaccines, Bill Gates and all that. He's creating really an ecosystem where people are they have been probably for a long time, ask to be saved, to be rescued, to be taken away, to be exempt really from all the evil that's still coming. So let me read that again. That's a very, very important verse, Romans 10:9, that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus and shalt believe in thine heart that God raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. You have to know that Jesus, though. I want people to understand. Don't call on the Jesus that Bible literalist is teaching. And it's not a shot to her, but they don't know God. I say that confidently. They don't. Like QE, Hovind, and Pastor Anderson, they're just actors. This is not me trying to get on my high horse and, win people over or anything. It's just obvious. Just take my word for it. If it's not for a lot of people, I mean, a couple of those people are ball earthers, so we know that. But I just want people to call on the right one. I would not be doing people any kind of service if I presented a God that if they called on, he wouldn't respond reliably. And so just make sure you're calling on the right God. Verse 10, for with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. So this is a declaration. This is really, and I'm not saying this to, get people to just commit a whole bunch of sins or whatever, but this is really all we can do. I want people to know, according to the Bible, we can't go out and fight for salvation. We can't go ask Trump to be saved or any of these flat earth clowns. They're not going to, quote, save us. No one on earth can save us. And there's nothing we can do. We can't do a bunch of jumping jacks and push-ups to get God to, quote, save us. Again, I'm not saying this for a license for all of us to just do whatever we want, but Paul is telling us here that that's all we can do in the last days, because he knows that salvation is for the last days. He's very, obviously spiritual. He knows what the term is meant for. It's not, to be floating in space and, God to take us to heaven and all that kind of stuff, to avoid hell, because this is hell according to the Bible. And so Paul knows that this is for the end times, and he knows that that's all we can do, and so let me read that one again, actually. Verse 10, for with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. So the way I see it is that it doesn't hurt to ask. Do I think that I'm the 144,000? No, because I don't think I'm an Israelite. But do I ask God, can I be a part of that, my people? I do. And if he says no, that's fine. Then I believe it was Right to Hand or Good Servant. Somebody said on one of their chats, and it really hit me. It's then we take that position as honorable, what God wants us to do in that situation. And ultimately we still uplift his name then, and so that's the incredible thing about the times that we live in, is that at some point God's going to make himself known, to all of us. Like the Bible says in Revelation 1:7, those who pierce him will see him, all eyes will see him. So we'll all know that God exists. Now the question is, how do we die and for God? Are we taken away, or do we die as a martyr as a part of the mixed multitude? And so that's the way we should kind of think. That's the way I think, but it doesn't hurt to ask, is my point. The Bible says that our evil parents give good gifts. If we call our parents on earth, even if you don't have a great relationship with them, and ask them for help, I'm moving, can you lend me a hand, and all that, they'll obviously help, so God is infinitely more generous, than them. So that's my stance. That's how I ask God. I don't think that I'm entitled to it, or I deserve it, or he's told me anything like that. But I ask. I genuinely do. I ask pretty much every day if I'm not golfing. Even sometimes when I'm golfing, if I'm playing poorly, I ask even more then, actually. Verse 11, for the scripture saith, whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed. This to me is an incredible promise. Actually, if might be maybe the most important statement that comes across in this lesson, because the rest of it that I'm about to read, I'm just reiterating what I've already said in other videos. But remember that, for the scripture saith, whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed. Think about all the other things we could be ashamed of, in our own life, the system that we live in, all the things that, we've done, people maybe have done to us and all that kind of stuff. This is an incredible promise. For whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed. So how can that be? How can we be in the presence of perfection, but we're not be ashamed? I remember a good servant said this once when we were chatting, that he sets our sins as far as the east is to the west. So actually the things that we've done that are the most evil are actually the furthest away from us. And so that's the only way that we can not feel ashamed in the presence of perfection. is if God literally somehow, how he does this, we obviously don't know. He's able to take from our mind, our memory, and of our spirit, stuff that we've done that we know are evil and not pleasing to him, and he's able to remove them, somehow, and like distance us from them infinitely. So God is a mind controller. The way that the system right now wants to put a chip in people and control them and all that kind of stuff, God is doing that through spiritual means. That's an incredible thing. Again, just the mechanisms of how he does that would be amazing. Like just literally from like a physics perspective, like how does he maintain like me, like Sharik Patel, if I'm allowed in his presence, how does he then kind of go into our brain and like remove things, that like I can still be me, but I won't remember those things. That's that's an incredible thing. But that's essentially what we're promised here, for those who, like it says here, believeth on him. Verse 12, this is actually, okay, so verse 12, for there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. So this is the part where all these people who take the Bible and like make it into like a business and like a little clique and all that kind of stuff, you got to come to us, to get the truth, when the Bible's literally available in like every single motel room in possibly the world. And so that's nonsense. When the Bible says all, a Bible literalist like me believes that it's all. I don't understand how anybody, and it's not just here, obviously, it's everywhere in the Bible. The same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. So the invitation's open, and we got that proof in Revelation that the mixed multitude comes from all nations. And so God has purposely done this. He has put, quote, injected, for lack of a better term, his spirit he's peppered it throughout the entire world. And that's an incredible thing. And I believe we're being recombined through you flat earth and all that, these non-conference earthers that we are. This is an incredible thing. So now from 13 onwards, I want people to consider, don't take it as gospel, obviously, unless it happens, but also consider this yourself, that the sequence of events, it's always salvation, 2 witnesses, John the Baptist, who's Elijah and Moses, and then destruction. That's always the sequence, literally everywhere. And not a shocker, we're going to see that again right here. Starting with verse 13, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. So that's one tick. That's the salvation. That's the first step. Now, if we were to read this, we would expect to read some. This is why I like the Bible. It's an incredible book to interact with. It's like kind of like it's just fun. You can like use it to predict things. The Bible's the ballers say that the heliocentric model predicts things. Well, if we were to have that understanding that I teach about the sequence, we would expect to see that everywhere, right? God's DNA in all the books. Not a shocker. The next things that we'll start hearing are things about Elijah and Moses, and so, preaching the word to the entire world. So, not a big shocker, but again, it's in Romans, it's in Matthew, it's in Ezra, Zechariah, Daniel, Revelation, all that kind of stuff, same stuff. Moses and John the Baptist and Elijah, they travel in pairs, and so we see this even on God's left-hand side, that spirits gather together in groups. If people ever wonder how do like clowns like Owen Benjamin, Big Bear and all that have like hundreds of people that listen to him, those are groups of spirits. From the spiritual perspective, those are groups of spirits that like travel together, and so they've interacted in a prior generation likely. And so that's the same kind of thing, and so Christ has the same thing, Christ's 2 spirits next to him and his elect, the Bible says they follow him wherever he goes. And so that's the way I believe that it works. But anyway, so keep the sequence in mind. I'll read 13 again. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. So there's the first thing, salvation. Now we're going to look for, Elijah and Moses. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? Yeah. That's crazy. Owen Benjamin is just a clown. Verse 15, and how shall they preach except they be sent, as it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things. But they have not all obeyed the gospel. For Esaias saith, Lord, how hath believed our report? So then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. But I say, have they not heard? Yes, verily, their sound went unto all the earth, and their words unto the ends of the world. And so this is now the period after salvation of the gospel going out, to the ends of the earth. And in this case, by two witnesses. In this case, it's Esaias and Moses. And so it's always the same general pattern, though. It's salvation, two witnesses, and then the gospel going to the entire ends of the world. Verse 19, but I say, did not Israel know? First Moses saith, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you. And so this whole narrative that, the Israelites are being, their relationship with God is not necessarily severed, but God is inviting like the rest of the generations, to do what he's describing here, to provoke them to jealousy. And so the invitation, I believe, is open to all people, and then we're reminded of that everywhere. Verse 20, but Esaias is very bold and saith, I was found to them that sought me not. I was made manifest unto them that asked not after me. But to Israel he saith, all day long I have stretched forth my hands unto a disobedient and gainsaying people. And so that's, for some reason I thought Esaias was John the Baptist. Let me double check that. It looks like that's Isaiah, actually. Oh, okay. So, so in this case, it's actually Isaiah and Moses, but just generally speaking, for people to understand that these, this always is sort of the sequence of events. It's like salvation. It's always two witnesses. It's the gospel going to the entire world. And then, it's judgment, and so in this case, at the end, but to Israel, he saith, all day I have stretched forth my hands unto a disobedient and gainsaying people. And so that's really always a sequence, of events, that the Bible presents. And so I guess, I just want to know what John the Baptist's term. I think it's Elias. Yeah, it's Elias. Okay. So I think, the actual who those two people are, I would say, is not, necessarily important to know exactly who they are, like, to be too like dogmatic about that. I think there's, again, lots of other references, like I've been reading in Matthew lately, that says that it's Moses and John the Baptist or Elijah. And so, but just know that, again, this sequence is exactly what's followed like everywhere. And so here in Romans, it's the same. And then even if you read Romans 9, it's actually the same thing as well. And so in this case, it's just Isaiah instead of, John the Baptist, who's Elijah. But it's always salvation, two witnesses who are preaching the gospel to the ends of the earth, or reference to that, and then some form of judgment, at the end. And so that's the way it is. That's the sequence of events. And so I would say, Romans is, if people have time, I would definitely say to go through it. The whole book. It's not that long. And, to me, has just a lot of really, really good things in it. And, again, like this, this sequence is also happening in Romans 9 as well. And so, it's that kind of stuff. I believe that, these kind of things, we're going to start seeing them sort of manifest, soon, for sure. They would have to, just with the way the world is going, and it's kind of just becoming very, very obvious that like our leadership is just completely out of their mind. And so, it's very, very clear. So I'll just, I'm just going to get a drink of water, but I'm just going to read the chat, and then I'll open it up if people want to jump on. I'll just check some of the chat here. Yeah, we're in hell, the rich consider it heaven. It's crazy though, because even for like people who are wealthy, it's still scary for them too. That's why, again, I really think that this system is incredibly unstable and cannot last. Yeah, every hotel room has a Bible. I mean, that would be a very, very strange thing for the whole world to be literally plastered with, things about the Bible. That's very, very strange, that's the case. And so, that's not a coincidence for sure. Yeah, Brandon's like the Gideons distributed. I heard of that too. Oh my God, I think it's also Babylon, bondage, Egypt, where our Lord was crucified. Yeah, so I want people to know that that term where our Lord was crucified, and it talks about the prophets being slain and all that kind of stuff. That's also relevant to this tribulation period, because then two of those witnesses will have been actually killed. So there will be two prophets that would have been killed again if that's where they're prophesying in America. And so some of those verses still need to be fulfilled, but Christ was spiritually crucified, in America. I hope that that's kind of clear with just the way that the American church has worked. And so it doesn't mean that the rest of the world is completely hunky-dory and loving Christ and all that kind of stuff, but America is sort of the heartbeat of pumping all the different propaganda around the world. That's just the way it is. But Meese, what's up, man? Welcome, dude.
T. McMog, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, player? How's everything?
Chilling like a villain. It's been a long time.
Yeah, man. It's good to have you on, man. How's everything in your world?
So far, so good. I don't even really have anything special to say. It's just I'm available, and it's been so long. I figured I'd stop by for a couple minutes here. It's
crazy, dude. Like all the things that have happened, the things that are happening in like a week these days would fill up like 6 months, maybe, in like 10 years. It's just absurd.
Yeah, the tyranny is no longer tiptoeing. It's just like giant leaps and bounds forward each day. It's frightening.
I don't know. I wonder. I really wish I could get in the mind of a quote average person. I'm not saying this to sound like better than people, but I'd really want to know somebody's honest opinion, like outside of the Bible, just an everyday average person. Like, what do they make of this? Like, do they worry? Do they think that it's anything, that they should think about? Because I mean, obviously from my vantage point, I'm, I don't think that there's a good ending to this, but I just don't know how a person could ignore it, the stuff that's going on. But sorry, I
don't know. No, it's all good. The only average individuals I've spoken to about it really were like the two at work, and last week I did the first cut of the season for that older lady that I mow for.
Yeah.
And like, man, I'm nervous about the rest of the season, because like she's in her house by herself, you know what I'm saying, just her with Fox News and CNN and all that all day, and was like angry that like I didn't have to go anywhere near her. She stayed in the house. She opens the garage. I do my thing, the whole whatever. Yeah. But was upset that I was not frightened with a mask, even though I'm just by myself mowing the lawn. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, dude. When I went to Chipotle and they didn't let me in, that's when I realized, oh damn, like this is actually for real now. Like this is not a joke. Damn, dude. So what did she want you to still wear a mask when you're by yourself working for her?
I don't think she wants me to, but was like, just because like I've talked about the flat earth thing with her a little bit, only because, she had brought it up with something she saw first. And I think she just takes it as like, it's just me being silly, and eventually I'll grow up and snap out of it and whatever, and just blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But now this is like, it's the news talking about something that could be quote unquote the end of the world. And it's just, I should be taking it more seriously. But I haven't really had, I haven't have a chance to have a conversation with her. I'm not really trying to or looking forward to it, just because, like, fine, cool, no problem. Like, you don't want to hear, and this is towards like people like us from the average person. This is not to her personally. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, y'all don't want to hear what we got to say. At least leave us alone. Like, don't come over here with, you got to do this and you got to do that. Just
Yeah.
you do that stuff. I'll be all right. You do
Yeah.
that stuff.
That whole narrative it's just so crazy, dude. Like how quickly this thing could get implemented, man. And like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's just very, very strange. And then I see people who I've interacted with in the past that I believe are like critical thinkers, but they're soaking this thing up, dude. They're like, this is something really serious and stuff. It's just, oh man.
I agreed with what you said about like the left hand side is like excited for it. They're like, hell yeah, like that's the vibe I'm getting from a lot of people that I interact with. They're like, yeah, like let's snitch on some motherfucker. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, do you feel even more sort of out of place? Like, I know that you've been in the truth stuff for a while, but like, does it add to like your uneasiness around people? Because sorry, that's my question.
Only in as much as like this situation is so much different from the others in that like it's dangerous to disagree now. Like, okay, they could always spin the narrative that anybody that talks about flat earth is mentally ill and like put flat earth in the DSM and whatever. But for people convinced that what is, you know, the mainstream narrative of how viruses work, and then that all could be true. Like, if you're not with the narrative this time, like, you are the direct threat to them. Like, it's and yeah, like I regret the little bit, like I said to the guys at work when the whole thing started going, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know what in their justified or not fear state, you know, what these kind of people are going to say about you when you're not around. And I don't know, man. It's, yeah, to answer your question, yes, only because now those people are going to feel like they got all the justification in the world because it's medical shit. You know what I'm saying?
It's just crazy. Like, they must, this is, I don't know how to, like, literally, like, well, I mean, this has to be the case, but like, somebody has to be spiritually programmed to like have that light up in them, you know, to like be like, hey, this is what I'm going to do now, you know, like gonna download an app, I'm going to go tell on somebody, you know, like that's just not a normal thing. Like how somebody could even want to do that for a day, you know, like it's crazy, dude. If these times are not spiritual or like biblical, I'm totally lost, you know, and I say that like not ashamed. Like, I don't know what to make of this, dude. They mobilized this thing like real quick, you know, damn.
Yeah, they did. And there's no, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. There's no play out of it because even if somehow say, you know, 10,000 doctors came forward with a whole bunch of experiments that prove viruses can't function this way, or that the whole test was a fraud or some stuff like that. All they got to do is actually release something, even if it's a bacterial infection. And if people start dropping dead, you know, the average person's not going to be concerned about the difference between why people are now dropping dead and weren't before. It's just going to be people are dropping dead. I don't care. Whatever the TV tells me now is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I would say for us to live in the last days, I believe it does have to be physical. So I think that if it is the thing that ties up to Revelation 16, I don't think it would just be God making those plagues be like on the news, you know, like fake. I don't, it's possible. I don't even know anymore. Like, could all those things be just, you know, a news story? Like, hey, there's blood in the water. Don't worry. That, you know, we have a couple instances here.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, if that's the way it's going to play out, but I would assume
if that qualifies, then Earth could be a globe, because Jesus coming down and every eye will see him when they make that argument about, well, there's cell phones now. Like that's how everybody's. So
Right.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, but that's a good point. That's the way I think. I have a feeling we kind of think similar. Like I wrestle with those back and forth now in my head because I'm like, but what you're saying is true. Then it would impact the way you would read other things. You'd be like, oh snap! It's like, okay, that's just CNN. That's just CNN and Fox News's job. But like, what about all this other stuff? So
yeah,
it's crazy, dude. Like how powerful the media is to like get the entire world mobilized. Like that's a world record. Like how did they do that? So Brandon asked a great question in the chat. Is an equivalent to the media mentioned in the Bible? Revelation 17:2 says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. So this is America that I believe they're talking about. So this is implying like a quote one world government. They're not like necessarily all buddy, but they're quote fornicating. And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And so wine is used to mean philosophies. And so this is prophesying a quote one world kind of evil structure, but also that there will be able to propagate information, so this, and there's other places in the Bible where this is prophesied. In actually Revelation 11, the two witnesses are said to be dead, and then the whole world is like seeing it. And so that's only possible if there's like information being able to be distributed freely around the world. And so the Bible does in multiple places prophesy, media, like propaganda, and they'll all be together. Like even like RT News tries to pretend like they're quote against the system, but they're just pushing, the same kind of stuff. And I read the comments below because a lot of them are really funny. They're like, oh my God, RT sold out now. And as if people actually think that, RT is going to really go up against the grain, but they do present some stuff, against the mainstream, but it's all connected. And so not only that, in Revelation 11, it says that during the end times, they're going to send gifts. So even like Amazon and all that is kind of prophesied, because without Amazon, you could still send stuff to people, but like internationally, but not as like easily as you can now. And so it's crazy. Like, I don't know, like, again, either the Bible is just like being trolled massively on a worldwide scale, or we're living through this. It's just insane. But that's a great question, Brandon. The prophecy of the media having this much power and influence. And the Bible says that the hub of it is in America, according to what I just read, or a place called Mystery Babylon, which I believe is America. So it's crazy, man.
It's not good.
No, it's not. It's not looking real good, but
I think I'm at peace with it now, man. Like I'm on the other side of, my grief and discovering that the entire truth movement is just one big happy fun time circle fun.
Yeah.
And like it seems really simple and cliche and stupid, but like I've just been thinking the idea over and over again of like, why didn't I see this before? Of if the end times is gonna play out the way the Bible describes, even if now is not the end times, like there's no stopping that if the Bible's true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
So this whole and I'm not saying it's not useful to speak up and speak out, but the whole we're gonna reach critical mass and stop the one world government, and we're gonna I don't know why I didn't, because I felt that way, like you were talking about like up until a couple of years ago, and like I'll say it was even up for me up to last year, at least to where I was still wrestling with it on and off, because I was when I first started talking to you, like over a year or so ago now. And so that's where I'm at. Like, and it's just, it sucks, but it's better. At least I'm feeling that way now, to just accept it is what it is. This is the creation, the way, like you said, this is the way he wants it to be. And we're just in it. Just what am I supposed to do while I'm here, rather than how can I change it to something he doesn't intend it to be.
Yeah. But Mies, I like that we sincerely, just the times that we talked in the past, maybe we went through it in a similar kind of flow. I think it's good for us. Like, again, I'm not trying to like say that we're better than people, but we genuinely tried, to try and make this thing maybe work and infuse the truth and like not be Debbie Downers and all that. But that's thrown out the window. Like, I know for a fact the truthers are telling us to go out and become vigilantes. It's the same story. And it's like, that's again why we know that it's true. It's the same
Burn
story.
Down the towers.
Yeah, exactly, dude. No, it's like crazy. It's like coming from Roxanne. It's coming from Earth is Seriously Flat. It's coming from Oakley. It's coming from Red Pill. Just, you have infinite rights. Just go. Just, all this kind of stuff. Kill the police and all. I was like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not burning down a single thing. I don't want this to I don't want people to have pain. I want people to be free, but I can't do that. Like, if burning down a 5G tower would fix this, it would have been burned down already, like a long time ago. Come on, dude. And I feel really, and now I just, that's why I put I fired some shots against like Red Pill and stuff. Cause I'm like, it just feels like they're mocking us, and then it's like, and this is where it's a little bit of pride, but a little bit of just a frustration. It's like, if they gave us a flat earth unique solution, I wouldn't be as angry, but now that they're arguing about freaking Roxanne's $500 or $1,000 and wasting streams and stuff. And this is not a shot to Ranty. I don't think that that's real, but hopefully they understand that I feel mocked as a quote flat earther, genuinely just wanting a unique solution. So I could go and talk to other like people who are like technical and use that as an evidence. But that we need some engagement with the baller side, and then we may need a lot of resources to do it properly. So they leave us hanging on that. And not only that, they give us Bob Nodell, who like pays $25K to support the ball earther. So, and then now they're telling us to like, okay, scrap all that. And then Sergeant's like, you know what, let me remix this for 2020. We're all an army now, I'm like, hell no, dude, I'm not your army. So you could go and have like threesomes with freaking Patricia Steer and all that. Like, dude, hell no. Are you kidding me, man? He can do whatever he wants, but I'm not going to like burn down any towers or shoot a police officer in the head. Hell no. Are you kidding me? If they come by and they say, Shrag, we're here to exert power over you, I'm like, okay. I'm like, how much is this going to hurt? Like, right. I'm obviously not going to take the mark of the beast or whatever, but I'm not going to like fist fight them or anything like that. Like, no, it's crazy. But sorry, that's what I see going on in the FE community. It's like, oh, they were super energetic about Flat Earth. Then they got super energetic about freaking Mandela. Now they're all of a sudden like, hey, throw these people out in the streets. And hey, by the way, when you're there, buy a mask that I'm going to sell you, and so you can go out and look like an idiot. Like, I don't co-sign that. That's insane. So that was a complete rant. Sorry, but like,
no, that's okay. It's true though, dude. I literally have screenshots of, I don't remember the username right now, but it was either in Zoom Truth chat box or Flat Earth Fockers, I can't remember, but literally somebody typed in all capital letters, "Kill the police." Like, those were their exact words. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is insane.
That whole thing just seems too it's too emotional and not strategic. That's why I know that that's not a good crew to be around,
No, that's ridiculous. To even think that is insane. And then to type that on the internet. Yeah. That's okay. Nobody needs no part of that. Yeah. That's no thing.
If any police are hearing this, T-Mog, I give you respect. That's all. I'm not, just that, and YouTube, they listen in, all that. Like, it's an incredibly powerful structure, I don't know. We don't applaud it because it's crushing people. We ask God to lift this from us, but they got a lot of power real quick. We didn't really pay attention to this, but they started like, little bit here, changing contracts, changing laws, installing things, we just, man, dude, the left-hand side is slick. You got to give them that. Like, damn. So
for real, like, this, not just that, but like another thing I've been feeling lately, like as I witness the goings on in the truth community, is I and I used to be really guilty of this too, but I am a little bit sick of the constant, for lack of a better word, blaming of quote unquote them and they, and they're doing this and they're doing that to us, and they're no, we're all sitting around letting that stuff go on. They were only changing these contracts and passing these funky laws and all this stuff because anybody reasonable was looking the other way. Yeah, whatever.
Let's say all those things were like just a mechanism to like give a few people more money and more power. Let's just say that, power is a like tangible thing, even though you can't like maybe put a number on it. That's done. That's like way done. And so that's the thing about the world. It's like, how do you undo that? It's just how, like, and this is not defending people who are evil and have stolen all the money, but I mean, like, what are we going to do? Like, sit down at a negotiation table, me and Mies Kang negotiating.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, it's like, what are we going to do? And I feel horrible but I feel better about it because I genuinely feel people like you and we genuinely tried. We wanted this to like work, earlier when the flat earth was like out there, we were in the debates, really trying to, convince people that, the earth is flat and then there's a God who's, did that and all that. But now that stuff, like no one even talks about that because like we're all worried about what to eat, and all that kind of stuff and this freaking vaccine and all that. So it's to me, God is making it very, very obvious that, he won, this is what it is. Like credit to God because damn, like he mobilized a lot of people. And the thing that, we've been starting to kind of poke at a little bit is like, we're asking more questions to our flat earth high priest, like, why are you here? Like who pays you and all that. And, Pete and me are kind of a bit more on the leadership on that. Pete doesn't care, which is the one aspect I like about Pete Shea is like, he'll call out anybody like right to their face. And so, we need to know kind of what's their real agenda, like, it's $2 here and there, super chats. No one has any issues with that. But if there's other sinister things going on where they're telling us to like go and do things that put us in danger and all that, I mean, I'm not into that kind of stuff. But Ranty hasn't gone there, so I think that he's better than the other people. He's just been prepping. That's why I feel like people like me and Pete and others find a safer place to go there than other places where they may take a stronger stance about being quote proactive and why aren't you doing things and all that. It's like, it just seems really strange, that other people would tell us that, knowing that we've been hoodwinked our entire life, everybody on earth, about the shape of the earth. Like, it doesn't make sense. So, damn.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't burn down any towers.
No.
The cops are not the enemy. Did you see Zoom Truth bullhorning an entire protest, telling them all he was ashamed of them?
You know what's funny, dude? I listen to them and then I hear other people in the comments are like talking. They're like, dude, we can't listen because it's so loud. And it's like a valid point. It's like, we can't even listen into his live streams because like, it's just hard on our ears. But yeah, dude, I don't know if you have a specific example, but
he has a backup channel. It's Zoom Truth Live. And he did one. It's like outside of Governor Murphy's mansion. And at first, right, like it's like, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred people. And Zoom Truth has got them all on his side. Like, he's on his bullhorn. He's like, yeah, tyrants, blah, 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 the whole thing. And they're all like, all right, like cheering with him. So then he's like, well, let's go talk to the police. Like, because he's like saying, technically, whatever the governor has done is treason, so he should be arrested right now. Why aren't the police arresting him?
Jeez.
Let's go ask the cops. And then they're like, all the protesters are like, no, don't do that. So then he like goes, which, I mean, I'm not sure I 100% co-sign harassing the cops, like, because these guys, at least they really weren't doing anything. They were just standing there, and they weren't like, these people were not quote unquote socially distancing. Not everybody had a mask on, and the cops weren't messing with them. Yeah. So like, I understand where Zoom is coming from, but like, it's not all on the cops. You know what I'm saying? They didn't do this. They didn't create this system and this, you know, they're just as clueless as we are. You know what I mean? But he starts asking them, like, who do you work for? Like, the people or the government? And the cops won't answer. And then, like, all these people come over and start screaming at Zoom, telling them to leave the cops alone. This one lady goes off. She's like, I was a police officer. Leave them alone, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then the whole protest turns on him. So then he just starts bullhorning them, saying, you're all a bunch of slaves. I'm ashamed of all of you. And it was just, I thought it was hysterical that he's bullhorning a couple hundred people, telling them he's ashamed of them. But
jeez,
yeah, that happened.
Oh, I don't know. It's crazy because like we have this sense that we have to like do something or whatever.
Right.
But, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know, man. This is such a weird time that we live in. It's like, I think and this is not in any way to boast, but I think what people already sense, like spiritual people, that I think Mies has known this for a while, that this whole system right from the get-go was designed to fail. Like it pretty much has to, with the way the banking system worked and then the corporations that were set up and all that kind of stuff. It's like, they're so disconnected from like human needs and then all that. So it's like, let's just say we were to like take over the purse strings. Let's say Zoom Truth was the flat earth leader of like the Federal Reserve. Let's just say it's like, well, what do we do now? Like, how are we going to like reorient this? Like destroy all the hospitals and like start from scratch and like teach people proper medicine and education and all that. And this is the part where, you know, I know I come across as kind of a prick, but it's like, I don't know, like how are we supposed to start again? You know, and like, what are we going to do? Like, oh man. So I don't know. Cause just everything is so corrupted. I feel like I think the flat earth for me is just too much to like overcome, you know, like if we weren't lied on that level about things, let's say it was just very, very like greedy, like medical people or like other things, you know, just kind of greedy bankers or greedy corporate people, we could sort of overcome that. But I mean, we've been lied to about like our entire reality and then that kind of thing. And so I don't know. I just don't see how the flat earth is not, if it's true, it's not for a particular like big purpose, but I don't know.
I don't know. I'm trying to like look at it from if I was going to say if the biblical narrative isn't true, like from these people that run things, if what reason could they have had for doing it? But if they like discovered that it was not a sphere, they would know that something was up with the biblical narrative, so that wouldn't really matter anymore. I don't know. But again, Owen Benjamin will save us, buddy. He's going to do live streams. He's going to get them on unauthorized TV or whatever it is. And, you know.
Did you hear his Mies? Oh, like from Call for an Uprising?
I think I listened to like half of it. Give me the rundown.
Cringe, dude. Like he was making like, you know, like masturbation sounds and stuff. Like it was like.
Owen was?
Yeah, I know that he's like rough around the edges and crass, but it was like cringe, dude. Like.
Yeah.
Real cringe. And like, I'm not, you know, a prude. I know all about, you know, jokes and dirty jokes, but I was like, oh my God, dude, it was awful. And like, you know, the funny thing, Call for an Uprising, I don't know who he is, shout out to him, but he was actually funnier. Like his response was actually like funny and entertaining. And I don't really find Owen Benjamin that funny, but yeah, dude, that's crazy. It's kind of cool though. Cause like, I think again, it's becoming very, very obvious. He's a bit more extreme, but these other people are just showing, you know, kind of their true colors, you know, like what's really going on. Jaron, you don't hear a peep from him about anything serious. Dearth is putting up a little bit about the economy and all that kind of stuff. So we're starting to see like what's really, really going on. I would just say for anybody out there who's like not a corporation or, you know, doesn't have like big bears or whatever those people that follow and all that, like that's a good place to be, you know, for sure. Because it's kind of crazy because the kind of things that like you have to do to maintain those people in the times is just like, it's like crazy. Like how can a person toe the mainstream narrative right now? And it's just so ridiculous. Like Dell, I don't want to talk about the mark of the beast. You don't have to believe that the mark of the beast is ever going to be forced because I don't know that it is either. And I want people to know, even if it's forced, it doesn't mean that it's a mark of the beast. It has to be punished the way that the Bible says. So we don't know that either. And so I'm not recommending people take it if it ever is forced, but there's a lot of ifs, down the road. But for a person like Dell to not even want to talk about it, I mean, that's kind of like sad, like it means that he's just an actor. Maybe he'll offend 2/3 of his viewers, but if he talks about it, but I mean, that's pathetic, with the we live in. But dude, this stuff, dude, I definitely believe the Bible, like at the end of last year, but this stuff even caught me off guard. I'm like, whoa, like this patent, Microsoft patent.
What's up with it?
Yeah, dude, I'm like, even this trace thing that Call for an Uprising put with the HR 6666 or whatever, HR human resources, because like we're a resource to them or whatever. I'm like, even me, I'm like, damn, like I definitely believe that it was possible technically, like as an engineer, like at the end of last year. But now I'm like, whoa, like they've been going like overtime in the background. So Bible's looking pretty good for those out there, not that we're trying to make money off it or anything, but like Bible's looking pretty darn good these days. Damn. And Mason B's in the chats, like, and people like Arwen bow down to Owen. So, dude, I'm not saying this to be rude, but Mason B, your interaction with Arwen is hilarious, dude. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Mason B and Arwen interact in the chat, dude. It's like, it like needs its own TV show. It's just hilarious. But shout out to Arwen, man. Anybody out there in the Oakley crew, man, it's just you don't have to keep following that script. The Bible is just there for anybody to read. So,
well, while we're giving shout outs, I definitely want to give a shout out to Karen B. She unbanned me from her channel.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's been a while since we talked, buddy.
That's dope, dude.
Yeah. You remember that the angry video I posted, the Mandela effecties perfectly described. Yeah. And I don't know how much longer it was after that video, but I went to one of her live chats and typed and then refreshed my page, and I was no longer banned. So I've told her multiple times that she's my absolute favorite, and that holds true because, dude, for her to hear what I had to say in that video, and then still be willing to let me come back and talk in her chat box, that deserves some credit for sure. For sure.
Dude, they even after I posted that kind of hit piece on the Sleeping Warrior and Ranty, freaking Roxanne even like pinned one of my comments, and 007 talked about it in the chat. I was like, dude, what's going on here? I was like, that's not what I expected. I just assumed to get banned and then I was going to go away. Right. But so I don't know, man. It's like that's the cool thing about us is like we can push back. If they block us, then we learn something. We're like, hey, they don't want us to even say like kind of benign things. And so, or we force the conversation to be a certain way. I talked about this world being a prison, and then 007 made a fantastic point about how he's actually been to prison, and like it's like it is a prison. So I was like, that's good, like at least we got a conversation going, and you didn't have to block me or whatever. So, yeah, it's like I don't understand these quote truthers. Don't be so like obviously shilly. It's like just pretend to like not be a shill. It's crazy. Yeah. Dude. So
to be fair, I don't think it was her that blocked me in the first place. Right. I think it was one of her mods, but she undid it. I think only she can do that, right? Like a moderator can't go in there and do that.
That's true. She would have to go to like her account page, probably. Yeah.
I not to be a dick, but I asked Brian in a different chat, like later on. But not asked. I was like, "Come on, buddy, you got to unban me on the main channel," because I think we were in like one of his alternate channels because he's got 3 of them. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "I'm gonna ban or I'm gonna unban everyone tomorrow. Well, not everybody, but you will be unbanned." And I screenshotted that, Mr. Stavely, but I'm still banned on there. I can't participate. So just let you know.
That's funny. How can they do that to us, man? Like, come on. Like, we need to like pass the time. They can't deny us this trolling, the pleasures, the joy of trolling. Come on, dude. I was roasting Jaron. I was like, I can't believe he let a lot of those comments go. I thought I'd be blocked like in a couple. So it's kind of funny.
He deserves credit for that too. He does let a lot of stuff go.
Yeah, he does. I don't know if he just doesn't pay attention to it, but I don't know, man. We're living in days that, I guess it's really cool that, I do feel like God was kind of mocking us because he could have produced a unique solution very easily within a couple of days, like God, let's say God's behind all this. And so we had to sort of take the little crumbs that fell off of Oakley and Ranty and Red Pill and Bob's table. But, thankfully there's an end to that. I honestly felt like I was begging, like I was kind of like desperate because like we can't really orchestrate those kind of things ourselves. And to me, it's just such a incredible truth that we know now, but like to have a tangible, something very, very physical, tangible would have been such an incredible faith builder for not just me, but I think a lot of people. It's kind of interesting though, too, because like it's almost like the Bible would, in a weird way, I thought about this and I don't want to sound blasphemous, but it would almost hurt the case for the Bible because, and again, I'm not trying to close the door on people being faithful, but like if something like that were to get out in such a mass way, there's a very, very good chance we could turn it around so like the Bible wouldn't come true. And so I kind of thought about that. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. Or a lot of people just wouldn't care, which is also very possible. But a truth like that getting out in the masses could really, spark some kind of righteous revolution. Who knows? But yeah.
Even if it did, eventually whatever quote unquote righteous society that would come out of that would eventually go back to, some form of crazy, corrupt nonsense, as long as we were trying to exist here without Christ's rule. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mies, I got to ask you a question, not to put you on the spot, but feel free to defer or not answer. But what do you think are some of the strongest evidences that we're not in the end times? Because I like to like make lists like this, like just be very like frank if you have any thoughts. Like, why would we not be, even with all this stuff that we see? Like, what do you think about
question. I've never thought about that. The first thing that comes to my mind is how many people have claimed it and been wrong in the past, which has been who knows how many. But this is tough, buddy, because like being frank, we're a little more on the pessimistic kind of things, at least exactly. When we're looking out at the world. So I don't know, because it's just maybe that is another evidence for it, that I'm just pessimistic when I look out there. Maybe things aren't as bad as I think they are. But I don't know. But I say that, but at the same time, the entire world economy is shut down. We're quote unquote locked in our houses. So I don't know. That's pretty serious. But obviously that alone doesn't equal end times. So I don't know. You're gonna have to let me think about that. That's a great question. I've never.
Sorry to put you on the spot. I just think for me, the one is maybe it's just because I'm an engineer. It's just technology. It's like there's more that we could do if we could had time and all that. And that's strange to me. Like obviously all the other things to me point to the end, but there's literally one would think there's really not that many caps towards human innovation, given enough time and resources and a large group of people thinking, innovating. And it certainly wouldn't slow down in the days that we live in now, because there's like already just a huge amount of technology that's there to work with. But that's really, I would say, the only thing that's why I mentioned that at the beginning of the stream. But it's just when I look around at the technology, and obviously I'm subscribed to a lot of conspiracy channels. It's like all of them are used to spy on us, or they want to jam something into our body that we don't need. And so that's the only, that's really the only box that to me, I've checked it for sure, especially with all these patents, but that's a shame that we couldn't use it to do good. So.
This will sound terrible, and this is me I don't even want to say the phrase devil's advocate, but playing just the opposite side. From the perspective of the people running this whole thing, it's possible, or at least I've thought this lately, that they at least believe they're doing just that. You know what I'm saying? Like, say it is possible to genetically write out death, or at least make a human being age way slower. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You can't give that to 7 billion people. The system can't sustain that. So
Right.
if they think that, if they have all this technology, or at least think that it's going to get there very soon, and that we could do good with it, you know, it could, an argument could be made that having to wipe out, you know, a large portion of the population would be in that good interest, because then, you know what I'm saying, you can humanity 2.0 with technology.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's I agree. I think that's another thing that constrains this whole thing too, is like the economics of like making, let's just say even a technology turn towards good, like even slightly, then there would be a large amount of money that would need to like behind that to proliferate that to benefit large groups of people for sure. And so yeah, that's yeah, we're kind of screwed. we're just sort of screwed on like many different levels. Oh man, it's just insane how it snuck up on me, and it's just crazy how easily God really did this. You know, again, I'm not trying to say like I know everything or whatever. Like I didn't pay attention at all to like what was going on in the world until like a few years ago, really, with the flat Earth, and then it like all just like kind of came together. Like it's just crazy how subtle this is, and like there's just people out there who just are still planning their retirement. You know, they're like, hey, I want to retire and do this and stuff. And I'm like, what? And like 5 years ago, I wouldn't question that. I'll be like, yeah, like, hey, let's brainstorm retirement. You know, what would we do and all that. It's just insane how quickly that things have changed. And then it's made even worse by this thing in 6 or 7 weeks, absolutely destroying the U.S. economy, or like being the scapegoat for the U.S. economy's destruction. But
yeah.
Whew. So let's say we were to plot this curve out. We're in the highly nonlinear region right now. No one would argue that. If it doesn't smooth out, I would say at some point this year, things, you know, for all of us, like we got to be like safe. Like we got to like be careful. Just in general. Like, I mean, we have the freaking police who might hurt us, then other people who will rat us out to the police and all that kind of stuff. And I think the thing that worries me the most, and this is not like anything that, you know, I'm special or this channel or anything, but it, like the religious people freak me out. You know, it's like, I don't really know how like gracious these religious people are when like push comes to shove, you know? And so that's another part that freaks me out, is like, there's literally no check and balance for this system to just plow forward. You know, people who are getting crushed by this system are still shilling for it, like religious people too. So I don't know, man. It's just, yeah, I like that you brought that up, dude. We definitely see the world through the lens of like sort of pessimism, but maybe me and Mies, we would maybe have the same answer like a couple years ago as we would now, similar answer. But I still think that there's obviously enough going on where we have like, you know, a justified view of like things getting really horrible.
I was just about to say that. I was going to say, I want to add justified pessimism, because it is definitely justified.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, I think this is kind of the payoff period for us truthers. Again, we don't know what the payment is or even if we're going to get one, but I just want people to know that it's going to be weird and scary and all that, but we would have to think that we weren't brought into any kind of truth just to be like in chat rooms, you know, for a few, which I'm saying we all did that, but that's not the only thing. You know, that can't be the only reason, you know, that we've been brought into truth. One would think that there's something bigger than that that's going to happen. So, you know, we have to keep that perspective. I'm kind of speaking to myself here because, you know, it's like we would have, it would be kind of strange, like if we, you know, and that's why I read earlier that, you know, those who trust in God will not be ashamed, because it's like we're kind of put ourselves in a vulnerable position because we're in a very, very small group. And then the system is actually still going to crush large groups. You know, it's not like it's just only going to target flat earthers. It's still going to target bald earthers are still going to have to follow all the same protocols, social distancing, unemployment and all that. So it's not like tuned towards us, but we're already in kind of an isolated group. And so, you know, that could potentially be very scary, but, you know, we would have to like lean on God more, you know, in these times. So, but damn, dude. Mark Sargent has disappeared. I thought he wanted to start an army and stuff. Like, where did this guy go, dude? He was like on every TV show. And then I saw Patricia Steer and I was just trolling her a little bit in the chat. She's kind of back into it now. But it's like,
she is. It's
kind of funny how the flat earth priests, like when, you know, shit hits the fan, like they're gone, you know, they have no real.
Well, he's still doing Strange World on Tuesday with Karen. Yeah.
Okay.
I only know that because I get her DLive notifications, and she simulcast that one on DLive.
Yeah. I mean, these flat earth high priests, they got to be a little nervous too, right? It's not like us who are scared. Like, they got to be worried too about what's coming. The reason I'm weirded out by them is that anybody who's not worried likely means that they know something, you know, that we don't, or like they're on the kind of inside. And so that's why I was kind of poking at Ranty to give us some information last time. And so I'll keep doing that. You know, as long as he lets me on the panel, I'm going to keep asking. He can keep saying he doesn't know anything, which is fine. But I'm certain they know more things than they're telling us, like for sure, without a doubt.
Maybe like Mark Sargent does.
Yeah,
but maybe not.
Will probably be there at the second coming of Christ. You know, he'll be in the passenger seat, maybe. I'm just kidding. Oh man. But how you're holding up, man? Meese, like your ankle and all that, you're healthy, doing well?
Yeah, I'm straight. No problem. I mean, to be fair, after, you know, the first 5 hours of walking on the grass, mowing the lawn last Sunday, because that's the first time I've done it since the injury, it was definitely sore after. It's a different ballgame walking on the grass than walking on the concrete, but not so bad enough now that I won't be able to do it again tomorrow.
It's just crazy how life is that you get that injury during the time when it's like snowy and cold and stuff, right? Like that was the case, right? Like the weather was awful.
It first happened in July, and and then I tried to, like, I was good for like a week and a half, and then I tried to mow the lawn, and after, like, I couldn't finish. I got like a couple hours through it. And then the next day, like every step I took was agonizing. So whatever I did, mowing the lawn irritated it. And then I went off work like the end of August until October. Mm-hmm. So I came back just as it was starting to get snowy.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to hear, man. You know, we don't want to be in pain, you know, and all that. Not. No. Life is painful enough, but that's
dude. Yeah, I'm not even like, you already know the situation at work. I'm not even gonna get into it. But insanity. And like just to respond like to the last thing you said, like the things that they say don't bother me at all. You know what I'm saying? Like I know that they have no idea why the things they're saying are wrong and just won't ever understand. That's cool with me. It's just so awkward that it's adults behaving that way. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what do you want me to say? Like, I don't even know how to respond to this.
That's why for people to know, not that it really matters, but my sort of life plan is that I'm going to be in the Bible this year, you know, and again, I don't want people to do what I'm doing, but I just want people to know this is the only way that I can function, is that I have to compartmentalize things, because I can't go and work in corporate America and, you know, believe that America's Mystery Babylon is going to hit with like missiles and all. I can't just do that with people. So what I'm planning is that this year I'll kind of take this year off, and I'm able to do that financially, and then decide after that, maybe reintegrate with the world. But like, I'm not going to be like a Bible person. I'm not going to like, you know, make fun of people or like all that, you know, if people are pushing the Bible, but I just can't do that. You know, like I can't work in a corporate setting and like harbor all these like views of the world. And, you know, mentally, I just don't know how to do that. I start sweating. I get, you know, nervous that I'm like lying to people and all that kind of stuff. And then people will like say stuff to me and I just don't really handle it well. And so Mies is definitely better at that than I am, but that's sort of my plan, you know. And so after, you know, June or whatever, you know, I'll still have my channel and people can reach out to me, but, you know, I won't be doing live streams and stuff. But, you know, I think that it's amazing, man. Like the kind of like ridicule we'll get for just even like basic things that we believe, you know, we're talking about a discussion that happened offline, but just to sort of talk about it from a high level for people out there who like believe in God, just believing in God, like it's just some like major, like, oh no, you believe in God, like that'll freak people out, you know. And so, you know, I want people to know that God's aware of the fact that the system that he made and us believing just a generic God exists is like offensive. And so like, yes. You know, much less, dude, can you imagine all the other things? Like, you know, I'm not saying this to brag that like Mies and I believe about like, you know, obviously the flat earth and like banking and like, you know, all the media, all, you know, it's like the list could go on and on. It's like, I just want people to know God, if God exists, he has to be aware of all those things, that we can't just like chug those for like decades, you know, like, yeah, just, you know, suck it up, deal with how to figure that out for 20 years, people ridiculing you every day and all that kind of stuff. That's not the way it works. You know, that's impossible. Even the most graceful person would really struggle with that, you know, for sure. Cause the system is so flamboyantly against God. You know, that has to be for a reason. You know, it's like, you can't even literally believe in God and like people be okay with it. Like people just don't, they don't talk to us, you know. It's like, it's a compliment, but also it isolates us because it could be people in our own family, you know, people that should be more inclined to like, you know, just let us believe whatever we want to believe. So it's crazy, dude. I was going to make a statement about call for an uprising. Sorry, this was a point that I wanted to make, and I'm curious if you heard that point that he made. Owen Benjamin was ripping into him about, oh, you're just too much of a, you know, PUSS, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not being a flat earther. And then he made a great reply. He's like, you want me to be a flat earther and be associated with all these clowns? And I thought that was like the perfect response. Cause like he covered up his channel pretty solid. Like he doesn't go into too much crazy stuff. Sometimes he posts videos that maybe are like fake or whatever, but for the most part, like he's on point. And he's like, and I'm like, I actually agree with him. I'm like, you don't want to change the credibility of your channel and like be associated with like this freak show that's going on. And so, you know, that's to some extent what we have to do, you know, for people who believe it, you know, the flat earth and like are really into it. And then it's hard for us to like hold back, even if we're not telling somebody about the flat earth, our language is just totally different, you know, like a lot of us know that God exists. We just don't know which one, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah. So anyway, that was a random point that I just wanted to say that.
That's fair. I didn't know the way most of these flat earthers behaved before I started publicly talking about flat earth. And had I known that, I might have really reconsidered that decision. So as flat as, you know, the earth may be, I guess I understand where Call for an Uprising is coming from with that one. When you got Nathan Thompson screaming at playgrounds and shit like that.
Trying to pick up girls on Tinder with flat earth pickup lines. Come on, dude. Like, how much worse could our representatives be? This makes me miss people. Like, why isn't flat earth doctrine one of our leaders? Like, you don't have to agree with him, but like, he's like sort of normal. Like, why don't we have like one normal person, you know, like sort of normal? It's just crazy, dude. Like,
let me ask you this, and this is not to put you on blast or to say that I disagree with you. I'm just curious, like,
no, cool.
What's the beef with Red Pill? What's up?
Red Pill. It's the same issue I had with Paige, actually. Shout out to Paige. You know, her and I have been in, you know, Ranty's hangouts recently, and it's just a difference of opinion. You know, it's like Paige really has, I feel like some genuine good energy, you know, towards trying to get people to like have rights, you know, infinite rights, like fight, you know, you have the right to like do things. And then that motivated one of my past videos where I just proclaimed all these flat earthers to not be in the Bible. So I kind of took it out on them, but I want people to be aware of the distinction in theology. They don't have to go my road, you know, and be passive and just, you know, sit on my soapbox and complain. I'm not saying that I have the answers. I don't, about the day to day, about how to win or operate. I'm a guy who like literally sits in his apartment by myself a majority of the time. I play golf, 2 or 3 or 4 times a week. And I like read the Bible and I just try and kill time, watching like old golf videos or just whatever. So I don't have life figured out is what I'm trying to say. But I also am just a person. This is just all I can express. I don't like confrontation. Like in my own life, I don't like fighting. I don't like the thought of other people having to fight physically, but I don't know if that's other people called to do that and be very bold and stern and on the streets. And, you have rights and government can't tell you to do this. Constitution tells me that. You go do that, that's fine, and if, kind of mocking people with red pills, hoax thing. If that person feels led to do that, go do that. But I would just say all I can present is my angle, that my spirit does not, when I see that, vibe with that and be like, God's telling people to do that. That again, my God could not my God, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. Like, I'm just reading the Bible and going through life and I'm incredibly flawed, but the foundational elements with me, and I feel like the people that are drawn to this channel, first and foremost, we don't like physical fighting. We don't like seeing the world with people fighting at the macro level and the micro level. I value learning, and that's why I hope Sean G was going to come around and chat. In one of his rap songs, he talks about learning. I think learning is essentially being alive. I feel like anybody who's not learning, we're like dead, and so that's one thing that I will always exalt. And so that's another reason why I sort of push the end times, because like we're not learning anything. So I have like certain fundamental principles, freedom, all that, to think and ask questions and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't know. But I'm also like a realist when we're going up against a system that is this coordinated. And like, we know that biblically, if God is the one who set it up, we're not going to win, And so every time there's like Paige is more innocent because she's definitely not putting money behind it. Like, go buy my, mask with like, that kind of, she never did anything like that. So I genuinely think Paige is like just wanting things to be better. I give even like Zoom Truth a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, even though that people find her, to me, just sounds real shady to me. And, I don't like that kind of stuff. It just sounds a little CIA to me, but, the red pill thing, it's starting to get kind of like mockery, because his last debates against MC Toon, I just feel like he lost them on purpose, and so because we had the Black Swan out, and like it just looked really, really weird. And so I don't know if he's now like using flat earth to come to a more sort of spiritual awakening or something, and invite God at least at the table. And if that's not the case, and if he's just kind of pushing these masks to make money, and the thing that I now know, these people have to be on a payroll. Like, Red Pill's not making money from like his man hits woman, woman hits man videos from like 5 years ago. Like, he has to be working, doing something. And so same with Ranty. He can keep telling us that he just does it on the side, but we know that that's not the case. No one sits for 5 hours, 3 or 4 times a week, and then just like does that for fun to collect like $8 from T-Mog and, Mason B and stuff. So that's the part where I'm a bit more sensitive, hypersensitive to that. I could be wrong. I maybe overshoot, but I'd rather err on the side of protecting people from being mocked. And then that's my voice to push back. If Red Pill believes that the earth is flat and stationary, and he knows that it is, he has to court a God. You don't have to court this God, but it's not the government. If you're a genuine flat earther, you're not allowed to choose the government, because that's stupid, because they're the ones who indoctrinated us. And so, that's the part where we don't hear any language from those people about what's their real objective. What is Red Pill's new objective now that he's a flat earther and he sees this kind of tyranny? What's the story? That's the part that I don't think we're going to get an answer. And the reason why we're not is I think that, I think he's on God's left-hand side. I don't think these people, I think we don't know this, but I think that once this stuff really starts getting serious, we're going to find out who's willing to put their life up against what the God of the Bible says. And I don't think very many people will, if it happens. Yeah. But it's more just like friendly feedback, like they give us stuff. They give us their little things. Little optics, life is short. No one knows really who that person is. Bob said that he's part of Globebusters, so he's in on it. So he gives us stuff, and then we have to accept it. Again, I'm thankful for it because that's a very important contribution. But I just want for all of us, not just with these priests, like even in our own life and even amongst things that we do, we don't have to keep accepting garbage just because we live in a system that's completely evil. Like this person treats me like trash, so I'm just going to like accept it. And I've had to do this in my own life where people who've treated me a certain way, and I'm not saying they like took anything or like whatever, money or anything, but I've had to do some inventory, and I don't want people like that around. We don't have to accept that in the days that we live in now, because I have a feeling when things get more and more evil, those people are going to encroach on more and more, of things in our life. And so it's the same with these flat earth priests. We don't know these people. We don't have to be polite to them. They're definitely not going to help us when things get crazy. They're not. They'll laugh at us. They'll be like, you're an idiot. They'll be like, you took my mask and went out into a store and then a police officer came and arrested you. They'll find that funny. And then they'll post that video and, you know what I mean? They'll use that. They'll be like, oh, look at how tragic this was. This person was just trying to, wear a hoax mask and they'll make it into something. They'll make it into a joke, and all that kind of stuff. We don't know if these people are serious about God or they're just trolls. I would just say assume the worst or just assume nothing. I guess I have the bit of advantage because I'm only planning to be kind of teaching for another couple months. So I'm trying to get my shots in. I've been doing the rounds. I went to Jose's hangout, knew I was going to get, kicked off that. I went on Sean G's last night for a little while. We had a more diplomatic discussion. Listened to Barney put us all to sleep talking about the Cavendish experiment for like 2 hours. I was doing laundry. My dryer was going, so I couldn't go to bed while it's on. So I was like, I'll kill time here. But I'm like, Barney, you should record that and sell that to people with sleep apnea. That was horrible. But I don't know, man. I'm sort of trolling a little bit, but the part that I don't want anybody, and I can't do this as somebody representing the God of the Bible, is put people in any kind of danger. We have to be sharp mentally. Even if Red Pill's sincere, who cares? We're allowed to push back on him. And then he'll just keep with his narrative or change it. But, we don't have to suck up to these people. They actually report to us ultimately. If we don't go to their channels or super chat them, it's just they're over them. They're done. So
nothing wrong with that.
That was a horribly long answer. Sorry, me. But yeah,
it's all good. I like Red Pill. I feel for him sometimes because you could sense that he's angry at the way this world is. And I resonate with that. But
the better ones, I would get him and Ranty. They're more human. If we were to just talk to them, they wouldn't come off Masonic. Like Mark Sargent and even Oakley. Oakley almost gets angry when people go off the script. We sense that now. He even comes on my channel and tries to guide the conversation on my comment board about the geometric edge and stuff. Those are different kinds of people. Their spirit's not right. I would even say Zoom Truth. It's we met him outside of Hoagie Haven in Princeton. He would probably talk like a normal person, hey, who are you? My name's Dave and all that. But some of these other people just don't even seem like they're human. But yeah, Red Pill, I find it was kind of sad because he was giving Life is Short an avenue to have a broader audience and come from the optics side. And then I don't know what happened, dude. He just had a meltdown or maybe got busy with life, building that shipping container house or whatever. But yeah. And then maybe it was just bad timing. Maybe he is actually a decent person, but he just got caught up in this Corona thing or whatever. But I just don't like when people give advice to other people and it just sounds really stupid, not well thought out, not acknowledging that the system, again, these are flat earthers. If they weren't flat earthers, then it would be totally different because then they don't have any reason to believe that the whole system is evil, and deceptive. Yeah. But they are. And I would say they know that the earth is flat, people like Red Pill and stuff. So
at least should by now.
Yeah. I mean, I would say those people know, for sure. Red Pill, Oakley, they who knows? They might have stuff that we don't know, we haven't seen. So I asked Ranty that, and he said, I asked him, and he said, yeah, there probably is stuff out there that you don't know that proves that it's flat. And I'm like, damn, dude, wouldn't mind. Yeah, we need to know that the handshake and all that. Rub Baldy Katz's head and all that to figure out what that is. So I don't know, man. I'm glad you asked that though, Mies, because sometimes this stuff can get I can get like kind of on an ego trip a little bit. I can get a little bitter because I feel
it's all good. I was just curious. I don't care. It doesn't hurt my feelings. Blast whoever you want. It's fine with me.
No, but I think from the spiritual angle is that really that frustration is actually more towards God. So I'm never like going to do anything obviously to these people. It's nothing serious, but I'm more frustrated that we're just stagnating. I feel like as a group, all of us, really, all of humanity, like we're not working towards something that we're not learning things. I would rather be in an evil system as long as I'm learning new things, but like, there's just so much like stoppage. Like you can't literally go down. I heard Professor Phil Bell on Jose's channel talk nonsense for like an hour, like just complete gibberish, like technical gibberish. Even Barney was talking nonsense last night. And it's like the whole world is just like dumb. Like it's like painful, like to ask somebody like how they're doing and get a normal answer is like such a big mystery these days, much less technical things. Yeah, dude.
Dude, I had somebody tell me recently that the reason they don't believe God exists is because priests have molested children. And I was like, so you're saying if somebody found out that a police officer was molesting children, that means the mayor of that city does not exist? And he's like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But he was like, dead serious. I was like, you don't see any like flaws in this reasoning at all? That
that's a good response. Yeah.
The reason God does not exist is because priests, that's not to say that priests molesting children is okay, but the reason the Big Bang and the evolution is real is because priests molest children. And you just get a blank stare or, anger that you would even question this statement.
Jeez.
Yeah.
God is not allowed in any discussion anywhere. No. It's like the logical thing is blame the Big Bang for that, because that person obviously doesn't believe in God, because like they would think that God would not like that. So that's crazy, dude. Like the even with the Hebrews, like I just think the world is just, again, it's not you or the few people that come by here. It's just we're not dealing with human beings. That's why I'm pretty sure that we're in the end times, because minus a few people that I interact with, they just don't seem human. Like it's just having a normal human conversation is like shocking, like just using basic logic, thinking about things, not going to one extreme or the other and all that kind of stuff. And so that's the part that's hard for me, because my channel is kind of extreme by definition, but it doesn't seem that extreme anymore, actually, dude. Like Bill Gates is on every freaking channel, dude, every freaking show. Just laughing like just a guy who's ready to just, oh man, dude, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Everybody needs to just leave Bill Gates alone. Just trying to help. He just wants to shave, 15% of the population. No big deal.
Yeah.
Come on.
Just a little buzz. Yeah. Did you see the way he's like jammed the needle right in with the GM? Like he was so animated, like he just did it like 10 minutes before the interview. Like that is Satan, we know Sean Hawkins gives us insight into Satan, but Bill Gates, and oh my God, dude, this system, you have to admit, even though it's very, very scary, it's incredibly coordinated. And so for people out there, there's no way that all this coordination is not God. Like if it's just random that all these people are just evil, then I don't even know what to say. Like, what do we do? Like, oh my God, dude. If God's not behind it.
Do you think now, do you think that Bill Gates is like by himself at home, like rubbing his hands together, like we're gonna kill them all? Or do you think he's like, we gotta be like that he doesn't think God exists at all, and he's like, we gotta take control of we gotta build this technological system just so humanity can survive. If we just let all these people do whatever they want, they're going to destroy themselves. Like, we got to take control somehow. Like, what do you think it is?
Me, dude, now you're getting at the mindset that I like to think, man. How does God do that? That's an amazing question. I think I don't want to misphrase your question. Does God make everybody's objective virtuous to them? And so I've thought about that. And I think that that's the case, because all of us have, I believe, a common sense of like wanting to do something productive, and virtuous. And it's just, even if people are evil, we all have that sense of, quote, purpose. So yeah, I think that's the case. I think somehow, and this is one of the many, many questions I would have if God were to ever answer these. How does he do that? The next thing is why, is also very, very profound, but we have a somewhat of an answer from that. But yeah, how does God make somebody like Bill Gates make what he's doing right now something that he genuinely doesn't feel like he's doing evil every day? Like, I don't know, man. What do you think?
You know what I'm saying? Because like this man literally stood up at a TED Talk and was like, if we do a really great job with new vaccines, we can get this down. But, talking about the like, he said that. Like, so he's like, and he's so enthusiastic about it. It really, there's no way that dude can just be acting all the time. Like, he's got to believe.
I don't think so either. It's the same with the ballers. Like, they come on, same people come on every day after day after day and lie and say the same thing over and over. Some of them must actually believe that it's a ball and like the flat earth is going to destroy humanity or something. Some of them, not all of them, but like, yeah, that's, man, God, shout out to God, the creator. Like, man, like this whole experience, for those people out there who understand how awkward this is and how evil it's going to get even more, it has to be brilliant, or else it's just a complete, like, it's just a madman who's behind this. That's a complete, like, psychopath. But wow, I don't even know what to say, dude. I do think about that, especially with the ballers, because it's that on a micro level. It's like even the truth would get boring, like just keep saying it over and over again every day. How could a lie, or people who kind of come up against this, how could they think that that's something like fun to do every day? And then there's people who do it for like their job, Yeah. Ugh, I don't know. That's the $1 billion question, man.
Bill Gates, what are you thinking, buddy? Let us know.
Yeah, jump on the panel if you're here.
We want to talk to you.
Oh man, do you have any big plans coming up, Mies, or are you laying low, like in life and stuff?
Just laying low. Like, I'm still settling into the new place. Like, I still I have so many tools to unpack in the basement, that kind of shit. And then, like I said, with work, I'm definitely just shutting up and doing my thing, and whatever you guys do your thing. And hopefully nothing changes with that. You know what I'm saying? They were asking us if, like, they're offering to give us the test, the CV test, if we wanted it.
Good.
Yeah, so I was like, nah, no thank you. And thankfully there's a bunch of other people that weren't with it either. So I'm hoping it just stays optional and doesn't become mandatory, because no thank you. And then just getting ready for however, I know this lady's gonna want to talk about this shit tomorrow, man. I don't want to hear all the stuff you've heard from Fox News and CNN. I don't want to run down the list. I don't want to be told about how I'm a moron. Come on. Just let me know.
Just send her to Russian Business Channel, and then she'll have a good time. No, I'm just kidding. It's shut down, I think, but damn.
Oh man. I mean, like, she don't have a computer or the internet or anything like that. Otherwise, I would have tried to just pull something up before, because like I can't just sit there and show her shit on my phone. You know, she needs glasses, that kind of stuff. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's so.
Dude, I was golfing with a guy though, and I just got the courage to just ask, or I mean, I always ask people if they're affected by this. That's my intro to kind of get a feel for what people want to talk about. So it was just like a younger guy, and like this guy just doesn't have a filter. It was just mad funny. Like he's with me and two other older people, and he's like, "This is gonna go down as one of the biggest hoaxes in political history." And I was just like, "Whoa, dude, like that was sick." And you know, the other two guys were like, "Yeah, it hasn't really affected us," and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, dude!" Like I think like people know that this whole narrative is fishy for sure. And so,
dude, we have one client that we service during the day on Tuesday, and he is like all into Q.
I heard about it.
So he thinks that the whole Corona thing is a hoax, but that like Donald Trump is letting it happen because he's got some master plan that he's going to use it to retake the American economy. And I was like, he's like, I can't wait for things to get back to normal. Like he comes out to see us every so often. He's like, I can't wait for things to get back to normal. I was like, man, I don't think it is. I don't think it ever, like, even if tomorrow they said, you know, there's no more threat of viral things, we still got 30 million people filing for unemployment. Like, where's, you know, and then I said, where's the $2 trillion for the stimulus? Where's that money coming from?
Yeah.
And he's like, he thinks, or I don't know if it's just him or if it's the Q people, because I don't follow the Q thing. He says that this $2 trillion, all of it, one morning, we're all going to wake up and this money will be evenly distributed into every American citizen's bank account. He was dead serious. I was like,
Mies, you're probably in your mind, you're thinking about those days of the bullhorn just didn't help, right? Humanity.
Yeah. I was like, oh man. Because I was like excited when he first like came out and said that he didn't believe that the pandemic was as serious as it was, but then followed it up with that. I was like, oh no, like I don't even know how to respond to that one, because that's never going to happen.
It's weird because I still leave it open. Like I just think maybe it's just the way my mind works. Like if it were to turn around, I would have to reorient my life kind of entirely, because I don't know, man. Like if this is not it, it's almost like exhausting. Like I'm not saying that I sacrifice a lot, because it doesn't really take that much to do this kind of stuff, but it's just like emotionally exhausting, you know, with all this like energy, like all this stuff, this kind of fear, I would say, that's kind of being told by us in the news and all that, and that kind of thing. Like it kind of feels like there's some major sort of crescendo, but if it's not, you know, man, that would be a miraculous save by the president. And he would deserve to get reelected. Like, let's say hypothetically, let's consider the possibility that Trump could like kind of like get people back to work, and, you know, not everybody, you know, is freaking out and all that. Dude, that's a grand slam. That's winning like 5 lottery tickets, like week after week, you know? So damn, dude. I don't know, man. Dude, there's people I talk to that are just planning their retirement. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to like burst their bubble, even though I believe all these conspiracy theories. So it just makes it very, very awkward. I'm not trying to get pity, but I don't know. I'm just saying this to be honest. I don't know how to interact with people. I just don't. No. I have to learn from scratch. And the way I am is like, I don't want to bring people bad news at all, ruin their, like, what do you mean retirement? Like, no, America's going to be like, you know, famines and all that. I don't know. I can't do that. And then I also can't make fun of people if they want to take a vaccine and even the microchip and stay here, because I don't know that it's the mark of the beast until they get destroyed by it. That's, you know, I'm pretty confident that that's the case at that point. But if people want to stay here, that's up to them, you know. But I don't know, man. It's like basically T-Mog's full of bad news. Every time you come here, the weather is cloudy, lightning possible, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's sick, man. But anyway, yeah. It's good to hear from you though, man. I'm glad everything's going well. You know, it's good that glad we got to keep in touch, you know, offline.
Yeah, buddy, you too. Man, that sucked ass. That whole situation. I don't know how
That
she
scared
did
the
that.
crap out of me, man. I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
for anybody in the
Freaking
chat, last weekend my wife accidentally inhaled a bobby pin into her lung, and it was frightening. And yeah, so
me, even, and I'm not even kidding, dude. I was thinking about you because I was like putting ice, in my drink that I bring to the golf course, and I I took the sip of it, and then I was worried because the ice cube, may have gotten down the wrong thing and all that. And I was thinking about that experience because, like, I don't even know if an ice cube is good to go in the wrong path because that's not good, either.
I've definitely swallowed ice cubes before, but I can only imagine inhaling one would be a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everybody just take it slow, take it easy, all that kind of. What's crazy, dude? It's like if we weren't already scared to go to the doctors and the dentist, it's like now with these COVID vultures, these COVIDiots, as Fokker says, I don't want to be anywhere near hospitals, dude. Like, I'll do surgeries on myself if I need to. Like, I won't. I'm just kidding, but it's crazy, dude. When I read that, dude, I was mortified. Oh man.
Me too.
Yeah. So everything's okay though? Yeah.
Yeah, she's all good. She's still a little sore from them having to shove this thing down there and get it out, but other than that, no problems.
It's funny that the article you read is the first one I read, and I was like, that's not the first one that I wish that I read. I was like, what? Like, oh my God, dude.
The other one I read was about adolescent Muslim girls. Apparently, for their headdress, they use a 3-inch pin that's got a ball on one end and a sharp point on the other end. And apparently, it's a regular problem of them swallowing these things. But the procedure is, and this has got a sharp point on it, they wait to see if you're going to pass it, and then if it gets stuck somewhere, they go in and get it.
Gosh.
Rather than just go get it. They try. I'm sorry, dude. How does a 3-inch needle go through your small intestine? Apparently it does. Apparently they do regularly pass them. But like even a 2-inch bobby pin, because like I said, my wife wasn't sure at first whether she swallowed it.
Yeah.
But I was like, how is that going through? That's not going to happen. You got to go get that. No way.
It's just crazy how robust the body is, right? Like it would literally provide like a cushion around it somehow, if it knows that it can't break it down. That the human body is amazing. If that's the case, that happens, man.
Yeah. And if that fact alone isn't evidence for God, I don't know what is, you crazy atheists. And that's all. That's all I got.
God definitely exists. I say that, I wouldn't say I've said that as emphatically as I do now, obviously, but the question is which one, and are we living in the narrative and are we a part of it? That's exciting. It's crazy, man. Like, wow.
Indeed.
Yeah. But yeah, Mies, I don't know.
All right.
Not really much to say. I think that's, I think we're living.
No, I think that's about it. Karen unblocked me. Brian said he would, and he didn't. I told you about the other stuff. My wife, we covered. Yeah, that's about it. Big shout outs to Karen B. Love you, girl. You're my favorite. Number one all the way. No doubt about it.
Yeah, man, it's good to hear from you, dude. If obviously you're welcome whenever you want. I have some plans for the next, couple of lessons and stuff after, June or July. I'll still be around. I'm just not going to really focus on the Bible. I mean, I'll still answer questions, but I may take a more sort of like observer kind of role. I'll still,
talk about
things and all that, but I still think getting in the flat earth would be interesting. If we can work towards a unique solution, which would be just fun from an academic perspective, purely. That would require Ranty to I keep bugging him. Every time he posts something, I always respond, let's do a drone hangout. Because even Sean G said that he bought a drone. So now the cool thing, dude, drones are everywhere. Bunch of people have them. We can't get two people on both sides who are just slightly honest to use a bunch of drones to prove this thing. Hopefully we should be able to do that. Unless the government starves us to death and tries to vaccinate and kill us, which is possible. But if that's not the case, I think I may just take more of a technical interest in the debate.
Yeah.
But
It's all good.
Yeah, but that's the plan. But Meese, always pleasure to chat with you, man.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah.
Appreciate your chat. I can't type back right now, but shout out to all y'all, and I'll catch you next time, buddy.
All right, man. Have a great week. Peace out.
Yep, you too.
Yeah. All right, peeps. That's pretty much it. So I have a plan to go through Isaiah 63 next week. So unless anything material changes, I'll do that. It's nice having the familiar faces around. Really no trolls at all, which is fantastic. And if people need anything or want to talk about biblical things or not, just shoot me an email. I'm open to talking about things and looking into the Bible and all that. I think it's very, very cool time that we live in, where our life could literally match the end of a book that was written thousands of years ago. That is just flat out amazing. Like, even if it just guessed it sort of randomly, that's incredible. But that's obviously not the case. But I think that we're living in those kind of times. And if anybody wants to discuss the specifics of it, I'm very open to that. I made a prediction that America will get destroyed by the end of 2023. And so, to be a man of my word, I will stop teaching. I think it's technically the middle of July or something, but 1,260 days, I take that literally. That is needed before America is destroyed, according to the Bible. And so, to maintain integrity, biblical integrity and all that, I've decided to stop teaching, and then I'll still keep my channel up. I'm not going to delete the videos or anything, but I won't, I won't be teaching like end times and stuff. I'll take more of a laid back sort of approach, to life and interacting and all that. I may actually interact more through my other channel, which is just my name. It's not the Mind of God. It's just my name, Shirag Patel, and just keep this stuff here, and respond to questions and that kind of thing. But, I'm virtually certain that these things will have to happen this year, that we will see like a supernatural intervention. We pretty much have to, this year, next year at the latest, and I definitely won't be teaching next year, but, I'm not trying to like be a Debbie Downer or like get people to disbelieve the Bible or anything. I want people to be excited about the Bible because God's running out of time. Just from a very, very practical perspective, if we think about money as like tokens that he's distributed to a bunch of people, the cards are so quote dealt, they've been dealt to just a few people, and that's just flat out obvious. And so if that's the case and those cards have already been dealt, now we're just seeing the results of that, dealing the cards out, the money out, the tokens. And so, and then the system is just, everything's expensive, like we can't just, I can't just go down the street and like work on my neighbor's farm or crash on their couch, or none of us can do that. And then people are like, have a family, they have car notes, they have, tuition and all the different expenses. Even a cell phone is expensive, like $100 a month for some people. And, the list goes on. Food is getting expensive. And so it's just a numbers game, and this is not to scare people. It's just purely a numbers game. The only people that seem to not be, worried about it are people who are government shills or people who have been diligent and prepared. And so credit to them, who've done that. I think that that's great. They shouldn't have to suffer, but it's not many people is what I'm trying to say. Like if that were a large group of people who have really prepared and created a robust plan for tough times, and then, the government were fairly small in power, that's a different story. We could kind of weather the storm, but I suspect that we're being queued up for problems on such a mass scale that only God can fix. And so this is one tip that people have told me during my grad school. It's like, if you want to give a good presentation, like a good PowerPoint presentation, they say create a crisis, create something, a problem in the world or whatever, and then solve it, with your own thesis or with your own presentation. And that's really what God is doing. If the God of the Bible reacts during this time, is that he's created a massive problem for people worldwide, and he would have to intervene, and so that's our hope, for those people who are in the Bible, that will happen soon. That God intervenes. So, Thanks everybody for coming by. Again, thanks again for Mies coming on the panel. Anybody out there, they want to, see me go through a book, in the future, just shoot me an email with ideas, or people want to chat, I don't mind people like that other guy, Cage, coming by, but not just like random people. Like if somebody genuinely wants to speak to me, like I know Mies, I've known him for a while, just email me, just send me an email and just let me know that you're a human, and like that you just want to talk about things and you're not just going to destroy the stream and all that. There's a lot of people out here who are not human. We live in a beast system. So again, thanks everybody for coming by, and have a great weekend and week. Peace. Bye.